You know, this Jesse Lee Peterson. He's like a hardcore Christian conservative.
No, I mean she's an exception that white people to the rule that white
Oh,
people
probably.
obey.
Yeah, probably. You know, but he's not saying that other people shouldn't have babies or that they should be sterilized or anything. But like he's worried about like white fertility. He thinks it's a problem.
So am I. I'm worried about it. But I've given up worrying. I think we're all doomed, and
oh my God.
Civilization's going to collapse.
And it's going to collapse.
The Western civilization's going to collapse.
And it's going to collapse because we are not sufficiently restricting the franchise.
Oh my God! Stop. Good Lord.
I just had to.
Yeah,
a little bit.
So what are the dire effects of women voting? Remind me.
A smoking ruin where civilization used to be.
Oh, right.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. No, it's just.
Who starts all the wars anyway?
It's probably
men
women
trying to impress women.
Well,
it's
that's
probably
their
women.
own
You know,
stupid fault.
it's mean girls.
Yeah, it's mean girls.
Right.
Actually,
sure.
Actually, didn't you say Hillary Clinton was a warmonger? And thank God we didn't. Well, we got Trump.
She's not a normal woman either.
One of the people who, I found absolutely, and I'm just reminded, the Hillary Clinton thing reminded me of Nikki Haley. Like, Nikki Haley's an absolutely disgusting creep. Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, and she's a Republican and, pretend conservative, but she's like a neocon and she probably gets, Israeli money and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And she was on the debate stage whenever that was, when she pulled it right out of her backside. This idea that for every 30 minutes, like I remember the numbers because it was like, they were so random that I had to remember them because it was just so funny. It was like for every 30 minutes that a young person spends on TikTok, they get 17% more anti-Semitic based on doing that. That's what she said, right?
Yeah.
And, like she would absolutely, like, I could see her just like, salivating in the White House, or, just like she's got her hand on the Bible or a pretend Bible, because she's probably not going to swear on a Bible because I don't think she's, a good person. But like, so she'll put her hand on the Bible and she'll like, and then so her hand will be on the Bible, her one hand will be on the Bible, and the other hand will be a nuclear button to try to nuke Iran because, we need to serve Israel, right?
Yeah.
That's how bad it is. Like she's, as bad as Trump is, I think she'd have been worse. And Trump is bad, but she'd have been way worse.
Now?
As far as just subservience.
Haven't heard from her. Nikki Haley.
Where's she at now? I don't know, and I don't care.
She's out of the limelight.
I hope we never see her again. She's terrible. She's absolutely awful.
I know.
She's pretty bad.
But like, one of the things I was going to mention.
That's what comes of allowing Indians into the country.
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm not going to say it, and I'm not necessarily going to agree. Right.
It's very hard to stop them. They're everywhere now.
Yeah.
They have their successes with Canadians, with probably Chinese, probably Taiwanese, but that was shot down, so that's good. They have some successes going to other countries as like getting a lot of work visas, like deal, like 10,000 work, 100,000 work visas with Taiwan, but most recently they have they have movement to counter that, so it's probably not going to happen. But they have a lot of success. They have their success with Carney, Canada. Carney is the prime minister. They just signed a deal. They have a lot of people going to work in Canada, get jobs. I mean that's the Taiwanese. They recently got my attention. They were against it. They've been working with the government for a while, for a year or two. But recently it came to a head. So you see a lot of AI-generated cartoons. What's it called? That's making fun of the deal. Like the woman that was pushing for it, the woman would be scared in the subway with all the Indian guys surrounding her. It's like, ooh. She was like, ooh, something like that. That's a concern because India, it's well known that in India, like men can rape women and get away with it, like on a routine basis.
It's almost as if the rape culture that the left had been talking about forever is something that, ironically, they're bringing in from other countries. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah. So that's about women women's rights issue. They just that their attitude toward women. That's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you want to get them over here? But I work with a lot of Indians throughout my career. They seem normal. They seem not like that. But we talked about a lot of issues, including like Indian politics, but they never touched on that thing. I learned that from other people, non-Indians, and I also read a news not recently, like many years I read a new piece of news, like in India, I don't know which city, probably biggest city, 4 guys gang raped a girl on a bus that was driven by one of the guys as a bus driver. And they just raped that girl, let the girl go. And then they ended up being prosecuted. So that made the news. That probably tells me routinely they get away with it, but when they couldn't, it made the news. You can interpret that.
Why would you say that? I would say that the system works, you know.
That one time, but 99 times.
The reason that it's in the news is because it's something remarkable.
Because I heard from other sources, like Indian women, they're protesting. They try to get their rights, like safety, and so with that backdrop, my interpretation of that thing as a piece of news, as the way I interpret it, because it made the news because those guys didn't get away with it. It wouldn't make the news if those guys get away with it, and which is the vast majority of the cases. Because based on what I heard from other women, Indian women or the activists, they really want to rectify that kind of thing because it's like for a long time. So I combine those, I put 2 and 2 together. And I don't judge it by just one single case. But so they aware of it. People I work with, they're decent. In that way.
Yeah.
Most of our men, 98% are men here working with me or work remotely.
Yeah.
But we talked about things, lunch, Indian politics, how they vote, the election cycle. The election could last for a month before it's over. Like here's just one day, right? Plus the mailing thing, you can probably a week or so. They last, not including mailing. I don't know if they have mail-in thing, but the just traditional voting, going to the booth for a month. It's kind of messy, but they're the biggest democratic country in the world in terms of population, right? We talk about different things about economics, but they never touched upon the rape culture. They never talked about it.
There's this thing, and I'd love to learn more about it, but there's this thing, it's sort of like cred or honor, but like a kind of warped version of it that they have that's called izat. And you get like it's how clever and like if you're able to scam successfully, like you actually get more clout that way. Is my understanding. That's what I've heard, but maybe I'm in a social media bubble and it's all garbage. But like, I don't know. Something.
Yeah, really.
There just seems there's a huge diaspora here, and I think it's all mostly professional.
Yeah.
Professional and higher level jobs.
You gonna say higher caste?
No, I was not gonna say that.
Okay, most of them are higher caste.
No, she was gonna say.
You're right. Most of them are higher caste.
And
if they have like a
conservative outlook,
most of them are higher caste. They can tell each other by the name, if not by the accent. By the name. Oh, you're the name. You're Steele. You're whatever your name. Dula. They know your caste. If you're born there, if you grew up there, they can just tell your caste by the last name. They all. I actually discussed that with them. They say, oh, I'm the probably highest class. Oh, that guy's second highest. They all like near the top. If you're lower class, you don't get a chance to come to the U.S. You have to jump through a lot of hoops.
So it's not a formal system; it's an informal system that's very, very present.
Yeah, it's kind of formal, right? Because it's contemporary, it's modern days, right? It was formal. It's formal as hell traditionally, right? That's how they control the society. Now, because they want to modernize their democracy, so legally they make it not formal. Not legal, not formal, but
Yeah.
culturally you still do that. So that's the thing.
Just one quick thing, going back to the sortition thing, just really quick. Like, the sortition thing is the thing that William F. Buckley was talking about. I'd rather pick a 1,000 random names from the phone book than have the faculty at Harvard or whatever. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like the exact same thing. That's hilarious, and it showed up in the National Review.
Yeah.
So, question about China. Do you think that they'll shoot at American boats?
Oh, you mean the Hormuz? I don't know.
You see, they
probably,
I wouldn't blame them if they did.
they
okay,
could do it purely defensively.
Right.
Right. They probably wouldn't fire their first shot. Are you aware they're gonna have a summit between Trump and Xi
Yeah, but that's
on the
been
14th and
on the cards for
15th?
some time. Yeah.
14th and 15th this month. And I have a meetup I'm gonna present, and then we had discussion just like what you did on the 18th last month about the topic is China. Oh, I sent you that posting. Is China a threat to the USA? I used to be adamantly say no, right? But I have a change of heart. I would say yes, and I would explain what's the biggest threat, what's the second biggest threat, what is optional, that sort of thing. But I would say yes nowadays because I got kicked in the nuts and someone kicked me in the nuts, and I changed my heart. Believe it or not, I can change on fundamentally things.
So who kicked you in the nuts?
Well, you will guess.
Okay.
You can. I bet if you guess 3 names, you get it.
Okay.
If not just one first name. So that will be interesting. I encourage you guys to come. So you will hear something that you never heard from me before. I can't say you never heard anywhere before. Maybe heard something first time.
I'll think about it. Maybe I'll be there.
I really encourage you. You'll find it interesting.
Yeah. So David, how, if you had to put a numerical percentage on the odds that there will be a confrontation between the U.S. Navy and Chinese stuff, and regarding the blockade, because you mentioned that as a possibility.
I would say it's highly likely because
that it's highly likely.
Yeah, because of some kind of interaction. Because well, there has been at least one and probably 2 interactions. Because if nothing happens for a long time and Trump is still there, given his psychology, I think he'll feel we've got to do something decisive. We can't just let this go on, so he'll come up with some pompous statement saying we've issued a warning. Or who knows?
I'm confused. We went in to go make the strait open because Iran blocked it.
Yeah.
And we freed it by blocking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people have pointed that out.
We're blocking Iranians.
I mean,
we're blocking Iranians.
I mean,
we're letting the other ones go past?
We let other ones go past.
You can give a kind of intelligent rationale for it. I don't agree with it, but you could. You just say, well, our number one preference is that Iran stops having anything to do with who goes through the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, haven't we stopped them from having anything to do with who goes through?
Oh no, they do all the time, every day they're accepting $2 million from the ship's captain.
No, I thought that stopped.
No, but the situation is, Iran is doing that. Ships are going through. A couple of these ships have actually been attacked by American, but that was very early on after they announced the blockade. And I mean, very early on, it was over a week ago, right?
Yeah, right.
But now it seems that they're saying we have a blockade, but they're not really enforcing it. So people are going through. So ships have gone through bound to China, and they're on their way to China now. Of course, the U.S. Navy may come after them. Who knows? Or they may stop them.
But
I would say before the summit, 14th and 15th, just lay it off. We'll talk about it.
Yeah,
We'll see about it after that. See how it goes.
Yeah.
But before that, let's not complicate things. I think Trump is not that senile. He will tell the Navy not to do anything about Chinese ships or ships that have paid Chinese yuan for the past for the toll. So I think we wouldn't see those things come to a head before the summit.
Oh,
They don't want to complicate
another thing is, Iran is requiring that this toll they're collecting, $2 million per ship, be paid in Chinese money.
Yeah, I just thought that was the first thing that they stopped, was that. They stopped Iran doing that. That's why they came in there.
How can you stop Iran doing it unless you go right into the Strait?
Yeah, right. Haven't we?
No.
No, Iran didn't. I don't think they agreed to stop.
That anybody who goes right into the Strait in opposition to Iran will just be sunk.
But you declare that, right? If you still insist on going, if you're the ship owner, if the captain, you do it at your own risk. I already told you, it's blocked, and I will do things to you if you decide to go, and it's your decision if you want to take the risk. I may not be able to attend to all the ships because I have only so many ships, but so many ships you can decide if you want individually. But I'm telling you, through the strait, I can get you. If not, if you even go to Indian Ocean, I can still follow you up. I can still track you down and get you. Because I've done that before, the Venezuela ships. They were on Pacific, they still went down there to board the ship and confiscate everything. So, just do it at your own risk. I already told you. Don't tell me I never told you.
Yeah, I mean, Alexander Mercouris made a good point actually about this. He said, the really surprising thing, the really astounding thing, is that companies with ships and captains of the ships have just agreed to go along with the Iranians because, who knows what the insurance arrangements are, but you could pay the money to the Iranians, go out into the Indian Ocean and be attacked by the US. But they're sufficiently confident that that's not going to happen, that they're just paying up and making the arrangement and going through. It's a remarkable situation, and of course it's typical of the way Trump's been behaving, because on the one hand making these very threatening speeches, on the other hand doing nothing a lot of not always, but a lot of the time, just doing nothing.
There's a way. If you get your shipment, if you load the oil on wherever that port is in Iran, and you go along the coast within Iranian waters, which is the 12 nautical miles, that's territorial waters. You go along within the territorial waters, and you go to the next one is Pakistan's territorial waters, still within 12 nautical miles.
Sorry.
Then legally, U.S. cannot get you. There's nothing they can do about it because that's Pakistan's territorial water. Even within Iranian territorial water, they can't get you because now we have the ceasefire. So we're not fighting anymore. So you can get away with it. You can go along within 12 nautical miles. You can all the way to unload your oil at Pakistan or India. Just go within 12 nautical miles. The Navy ships cannot. They can enter it only like an innocent passage. You can't go into there with your guns drawing and try to confiscate, do the pirating stuff. You can't do that legally, and you're gonna lose probably more than you gain. Complicate things. So there are many things that can slip through. But what I've been thinking is, just like anything else, if you 100% seal or block the Hormuz Strait, which means the Gulf nations, oil cannot go out, even you bomb them all. Because if you have bombed Iran bomb them back, bomb all GCC countries, any production, it ruin everything. The world loses Gulf oil. There will be, it's painful. It's a shock immediately. But over time, 1 year, 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, people will figure out how to get around it. Maybe increase their renewable energy production. Maybe go another route. People will figure out more ways than not to alleviate, to just go around it. So the shock is temporary, whether temporary meaning 2 months or 6 months or 1 year, 2 years, it's not going to be permanent. So over time, people will figure out how to get around it. Maybe that will boost the progress of renewable energy. That's why China is not immediately impacted, because they have stockpile. Also, they have they're the biggest producer of electricity by renewable ways.
Really?
Renewable ways. Also, they produce the oil products for Japan, Korea, Southeast Asian countries. Because China imports oil, but they have a lot of capacity to do the refinery. So they can export the oil products to Southeast Asian countries, even to Japan and South Korea. So when the supply is tight, China says, okay, I'm going to stop exporting the oil products to all the other countries. I'm going to satisfy my need first, right? So China gets impacted last. After the Japan, after Korea, after Southeast Asian countries, then China. So that's why they're still able to do what they do, which is circling around with Taiwan airspace and the maritime space with their warships and airplanes, which is consume a lot of oil. They're still doing that because they get impacted last. And they have deals with Iran. They imported 16% of their oil imports from Iran. So they still have 84% imports. And they have home produce their own oil too. So they're less impacted. But of course, it's a chance for them to have more tightened relationship with Gulf nations like Saudi Arabia. Because then now they want options. They know if you rely on U.S., it's dangerous. So it's like a opening for China. Again, all the bad decisions Trump made, including the previous president, it's an opportunity for China. Because China wants, I'm not doing anything. I'm just waiting for opportunities. I'm not even threatening anyone.
That's why I don't think. That's why I don't think the Taiwan thing is going to be a military thing. I think it's going to be a diplomatic thing. You know.
You don't think it's a diplomatic? I think it's a diplomatic.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a diplomatic thing.
Oh, you think it's going to be diplomatic?
Yes, 100%.
They recently have their opposition leader visited Beijing, visited Xi Jinping.
Yep.
They have like a good talk. It's just like a leverage thing, so she can go back to the islands, showing people, hey, we got good relations with the Beijing. So if you vote for my party, you can spare yourself of any military conflict, war and stuff. That's a big push. That helps the elections.
I remember reading something somewhere. It could have been on Fox Day's blog or somewhere else. I don't remember. About, she actually has a lot of experience dealing with Taiwan, because I think he was like some kind of government functionary in like a jurisdiction like right on the coast, right by Taiwan.
Across the strait from Taiwan.
So there was plenty of interaction with people in Taiwan. So he has a really a really good understanding of how that stuff works. And so, if a main goal of his, which is reflecting a main goal of China in general, is reunification, then he's the perfect guy for that, because he understands all the nuances of all that stuff,
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think a lot of people understand, and he can consult with a lot of people. I think that's the image thing. People, he has that history. He must understand a lot. I think that kind of understanding is spread across the government. Of course, it matters more if he's someone in charge has that personal experience. But I think the key thing is. China has this image, public relation problem. Because if you think the Chinese guy, they will automatically associated with a lot of bad things, despotism and communism.
Oh, you mean like public relations internationally?
Including Xi Jinping. Look at him, look at him. Right? He doesn't look a very amicable person, but he's a reasonable guy, but he doesn't come across like that. Mm-hmm. He's not like a Western politician, very good at public speaking, very articulate. He was just saying things. He doesn't have to be flamboyant and because he doesn't have to run for election like the way it's run here. He runs for his election in his kind of system. That's far cry from this system. So he doesn't have to have the same skill, communication skills. So that in this country, in this people's mind, that becomes a public relation or image problem. Right?
I remember reading also this one. I do remember reading on Vox Day's blog. I think a couple of different times he referred to the Singapore guy Lee Kuan Yew was asked at some point, like, who is the most capable, like, leader on the international stage? And he said, without a doubt, it's Xi Jinping.
Really, Lee Kuan Yew?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was alive when Xi Jinping took the office. But Xi Jinping has this problem because we talked about. I really studied recently about the Chinese system, especially economic system. Well, generally system.
Have you come to the conclusion that they're capitalist yet?
Now it's even fuzzier. It's not even it's not even not glorify the question, not orthodox not dignify the question. You know, the question loses dignity. At the time when we were debating, I was just having fun. I know this for fun. It doesn't sustain the test of intellectual thinking. But now it's even far from that. Far because it's a little bit messy. It's a little bit messy. Now it's capitalism. How is it capitalism? But how is it socialism? Right? My stand is even weaker because with this kind of wealth discrepancy, it's far cry from socialism. It used to be like everybody equally poor. You can call it socialism. Now, the way it is, it's not socialism.
Really?
But is it capitalism? I mean, it's a little messy because the way
You're coming round. Okay.
the structure,
With a bit more work, you get that.
the way it's structured, how could it be capitalism? Of course, in this country, the way it's structured today, a lot of people will argue, especially libertarians, will argue it's no longer capitalism.
No, I think it is capitalism. I think it's not laissez-faire capitalism. But I mean, I don't confine capitalism to laissez-faire. I think that a capitalist system can contain a lot of government intervention. It's not good, but it does. But it doesn't. In my mind, taxonomically, it's still capitalism.
So if you without pursuing the absolute definition of capitalism, because everybody has.
I gave my definition.
But let's say if goalpost
Can't
is
remember
U.S.
what it was now.
If the goalpost is U.S. type of capitalism.
It was a 4-point thing,
Yeah.
I think, but I don't remember.
It was 4 points. Yeah.
If we use goalpost U.S. capitalism as a goalpost, China is still far cry from that.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's a far cry in several respects. That's true. I mean, one respect in which it's a far cry is that America has a very generous welfare system, whereas China doesn't.
Yeah, that's another thing. But China's building up. Yeah, you're maybe converge to the U.S.
I think
system.
there is a tendency for all capitalist systems to converge, because they learn from each other and they find similar difficulties when they get to a certain stage of development, and they look at what other people have done in that situation, and they tend to do the same thing. So I think that generally speaking, what you will see is more and more convergence.
Yeah, the U.S.
But I mean, this is a very, very long, slow. Sorry, it's a very long, slow process.
Yeah, because it's more complicated than that. Because for the economics theory, China has been since 1979, 1978, through the accession to WTO, and it's all has been through the time they have 10%, I'd say 10% growth rate, GDP growth rate. It has been supply side economics, which means you use a lot of spending on building up the infrastructure, a lot of spending on infrastructure level, on building housing. So that's supply side. Supply side is easy. Well, in a way, it's government can control because you decide how much you want to spend on infrastructure. building up. How do you building up the capacity, building up the infrastructure, building up the cities, if you will, the housing? The government gets to decide pretty much the growth rate. How many miles or railroad you want to build? How many dams you want to build? How many housing buildings you want to build? But now the growth, so you have that growth year after year, but now it's to capacity. You can't keep growing that way. It doesn't work anymore. Also, it becomes a waste. If you build 5,000 miles of railway, makes sense. Does it make sense to build another 1,000 miles? Probably not. It's a waste, right? So you can't keep doing that. So now they're pursuing the internal demand side economics, and that's what we'll see if they will make it, by switching to demand side. But it comes to the, how do you stimulate the demand, right? You gotta make people feel they have money, but the unemployment rate is so high, people don't feel that way. When I was there, the guy that's driving cab, he said, they're afraid to spend money. It's not that we don't have money, but we're afraid to spend it. We're better keep it in the bank so we have some sense of security. If I spend it, I don't know, next year or next month we can make it back, right? So people can spend money. That means there's not enough demand. So they switch to the demand side, but they're figuring out how. That's less controllable because you have to use policy to make people feel rich or actually rich to spend money, as opposed to supply side. You can just build up from the government's initiatives. So and the Xi Jinping was the side he came to power as he was the supply side. He wanted to continue on the supply side, because supply side means doesn't necessarily imply, but pretty much means the government, the party will not share power with people. They will still control pretty much everything economically, even economically. But to some point, people have built up wealth. They want to have more. They want to have more power, so they know they can keep the wealth. But the Communist Party is saying we're not going to share. Well, Xi Jinping's faction, his faction actually won out. His lieutenant, which is the prime minister, he's on the other side. But over time, he deprived him of his power. He replaced him with someone else on the same side. So that's a problem. It's time to switch the demand side, but Xi Jinping is not on that side. But now he's started talking about it. Maybe he will actually do it. So it's a lot of challenge, that under the current we don't see from the outside, but actually going on. But the thing is, China keeps changing. You would be amazed how much change, how willing they're able to they are to change. Of course, it's sometimes what you see from the outside is the end result of the two sides discussing, compromising, fighting. Then they decide. Then we see their policy. But actually, there's a lot of discussion between two sides within the party. So if they have one party, they actually have different policies, as if they have two parties. As opposed to here, you have two parties, but they converge on a lot of things, actually. So whichever party you elect to the office, you get pretty much the same thing, especially important things. They will distract you with the cultural war, that bathroom stuff, the transgender stuff. That stuff actually affects a very small portion of the population. Actually, doesn't really matter. Things that matter, the two parties that they collude, they agree on those things.
Yeah, like
it doesn't matter which party is in office.
Like foreign interventionism and serving Israel. That's right.
So you get China, you don't get to change the party, you get to change the policy. But here you get to change the party, but you don't get to change the policy. But China has their problem too. There's a long time they can lose the people's confidence in the economy, so they will lay back. They're not going to produce anymore. If you don't change your policy, if you don't share power with people who already made money, so they can be sure they can keep their money for the long term, as opposed to whenever they get a chance, they will ship the money to invest to the U.S.
Really?
Wall Street, yeah. Especially those who have privilege, the party cadres, they have money through corruption, or entrepreneur, they have money in legitimate ways, or have semi-legitimate ways because they work with corrupt politicians. They have money, they have a chance, they send the money to the U.S., to the Western country, where you have a certain certainty of the legal system. You just follow the law, you find a lawyer, you can protect your rights, your property. As opposed to China, they don't have a very good legal system.
Really?
So you're uncertain. So
Yeah.
you don't want to keep your money where it's uncertain, so you shift them. That kind of drained China's capital. So that's not good. It's not for the long term. Unless you establish the legal system that people have confidence that will protect their property. But what's the best legal system? It's the independent judiciary, which China doesn't have. But if you have the independent judiciary, then you have a problem, and then Communist Party will lose its grip little by little, because they don't get to dominate the judiciary. Now you have a checks and balances. They don't. That's number one thing they don't want is checks and balances, like institutionalized.
Yeah.
Of course, within the party they have different sides, they have different opinions, different policies. They checks and balances each other, but it's not institutionalized. It's just within the party, the politics, compromise, we negotiate, that sort of thing. But it's not institutionalized. Like here, you have like independent, like explicitly independent bodies. They don't have that. So that's why people feel that over time people will lose their confidence in their security of their property. That's not good. People will not work as hard. When they earn something, they invest in the U.S.
Yeah.
Invest in the U.S.
Yeah.
Right? How sweet is it?
Yeah.
Is it for you guys, right? It is. That's the beauty of being a financial hegemony, because you don't have to produce anything. You just get the money coming in. You get to buy stuff with the money coming in. You get a deficit spending. That's
yeah,
it.
except I'm reminded of the movie Dark Knight Rises came out in 2012. That was the third and final Batman from Christian Bale. And Bane was one of the coolest characters, and he's the kind of character that he has a voice that you want to imitate, right?
Right.
And one of there's so many classic lines, but one of them is something to can't remember if it was Batman or somebody else. Maybe it was the General Gotham popular. He says, "Victory has defeated you," right? And the idea is that victory. Yeah, I think the general idea is that like victory can cause you to be complacent, or that like your ability to navigate challenges diminishes, it atrophies, because you might have like financial hegemony that you just mentioned. The financial hegemony, that's the beauty, is that you don't have to make anything. Well, that's a weakness. Not making anything is a weakness, right? You can talk to Ricardo libertarian types all day long, and they'll talk about comparative advantage and blah blah blah, and they'll say ridiculous things like, manufacturing shouldn't be in the United States anyway, because the United States no longer has the comparative advantage on that. It's like, no, strategically that's stupid, but like if we're not making anything and we're still getting the money, that's a weakness. That's like you're getting a drug. The drug produces some kind of pleasurable sensation artificially, and so you depend on that. Like it can be probably like a drug, like an addiction, and that's why we're fighting all kinds of wars to maintain our financial hegemony.
There you go.
Yeah, but relatively, you understand that, right? You say we don't produce anything. Relatively, we still produce it.
Right, yeah.
We still have
a
formidable, like sizable manufacturing sector. It's just not like the way it used to be. Also, relative to China, it's below it, right? But who's above China? China has 33% of the manufacturing output of the whole world. It's a U.S., Germany, Japan combined, still less than China. So you can't.
That's why we would lose a war if we went to war with China.
Yeah, conventional, right? So hopefully we won't get to that,
we could
because
use ICBMs now and probably win the war.
it's
but it's the opportunity is disappearing. I'm glad to see it disappear. Because of course that's an argument. We should attack now, because they're going to get stronger and stronger.
That's exactly right. You should make the first shot. You should fire the first shot, and you should try to end it quick.
Yeah.
because it's
But
not.
that's America's
there's-
specialty since
Because
World War II.
you're
It's
weaker in
footballs.
manufacturing.
Like the war in Afghanistan that went on for 20 years.
Yeah, but not against China. Afghanistan, they don't have manufacturing
Right,
themselves.
right.
But with China, if you drag it out, you can't sustain. China's going to win out. But if you can shotgun all, you can end it in 1 week. You can still win. But you know, China knows. Now. Everybody knows in the world knows the weakness of the U.S. They definitely want to drag out. They want to take it to the 12th round, not end it in 2 rounds.
I guess I'm going to
rounds.
have to put my mind to it and solve the problem of world peace, because it doesn't seem to be making any progress.
We've been waiting for this
yeah,
for so long.
the world has been waiting. Actually, this is Trump. The world's been hanging on my every word, trying to find out the solution to this problem. Yeah, I think because you see, everybody gains through trade, and it ought to be possible to translate the potential gain into an incentive for the right people, so that we don't have war anymore. It ought to be possible. Just figuring out what has to be done in terms of the institutions.
But so where everybody has an incentive not to go to war economically, is that what you're?
It ought to be possible to give them an incentive since there are gains there. I mean, this is the way it works in ordinary commercial transactions. You know, because in any trade, both sides gain, and because the total output from free trade is far bigger than by any other arrangement. Basically, the case for peace is the case for free trade, right? So you've just got to find a way of preventing. I suppose that would be another way to put it: preventing people having an incentive to take the war path. You know, there's at the moment there's a built-in incentive. You've got to find ways to neutralise that so that everybody has an incentive, and then everybody would cooperate for bigger and bigger output. It's got to be possible.
Yeah, but you have military-industrial complex. The way they make money is not through trade,
Right.
is to have war.
Right. But
And they get to control the
but
government.
then there should be a way to pay them off, you know. I mean, this is what happens in other areas of economic life, you know. You buy people out if they're a problem, and you're using the gains you would make because they're not there anymore, you know.
Yeah, why don't we pay them off? Why don't we say, hey, we still buy your products, but we're not going to use it, so don't push for using it. So you still make business.
But I keep coming back to this very strange thing that the West cannot produce enough in military hardware. They just can't do it, and yet they are the ones who are in hock to the military-industrial corporations. You know, it's not Russia. Russia is actually controlling the whole process, and you feel that they could easily go into reverse if they wanted to, if there was no external threat. Whereas America, you wonder how they would survive.
America, they still make it. Like I said, it's relative to before. We're probably not as strong in manufacturing, but they still make it. Like even in Cold War, they never get to use it on a bigger scale. They have a lot of Patriot missiles. There are a lot of Tomahawk missiles. There are a lot of intercontinental missiles, conventional, military or nuclear. They didn't get to use it, so they don't have to have a capacity to produce like 100 a week. Well, when they have hot war, they have to have capacity to produce 100 a week. So they only have to produce like for a month. They can store that and point at the Soviet Union to threaten them. Yeah. And so that's enough. But when you get down to it, you have to be able to continuously produce every week, every month. Then U.S. probably never had that capacity. Because now it's different. If Before you can threaten people, now
Well, you know,
now people see your
at the
weakness.
time of the Second World War, the US was absolutely preeminent in production of military supplies, like tanks. You know, Sherman tanks, they just produced hundreds of thousands of them in no time, you know. Churchill, when he saw some of the numbers, he was just
But it was a
absolutely
wartime.
astounded.
It was a wartime. You're not able to continue that after the war is over.
Well,
when you try to continue that to a certain degree,
maybe.
that's where you start a Cold War. It's like, oh, we have to maintain a certain level. But you can't justify to have the level of War II.
Right.
After a Korean War, you just have to scale down. People are not going to put up with it. They have to produce their washer and dryers and cars and stuff. But you try to push it, right, as far as you can, so you start a Cold War. So you will still have to maintain it. Maybe not at the level of World War II.
What is that?
It's like a flavor packet you put in the water, and
It's a
makes
psychedelic drug, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like that.
Looks
This
like
one is,
a Gatorade.
Berry blue.
Yeah.
See,
And it tastes good.
the Trump administration recently legalized
The colors and stuff. Yeah,
psychedelic drugs.
something like that. No, it's not.
We've got a chapter on that in our book on Buddhism. Buddhism.
So he does
Stoicism.
some good stuff,
What?
Trump.
Yeah. Oh no, Trump had a lot of good, at least in the promises. The delivery was a bit short, but I mean, he did have a lot of good things. But now he's blown it. Everything's blown. Trump is toast. The Republican Party is toast. It's all down the tubes.
It is, and it's unfortunate, and that's something that Vox Day. I was looking something up in with this boomer woman, and I was looking something up, and because she was saying that Trump is the best president in my lifetime, and I looked up some of the Vox Day stuff, and he had I forget what month, but it was from 2021, so after Trump's first term had already concluded, when the election was stolen from him. He said that, whatever Trump's flaws, he is the best president in our lifetime. More recently, however, given everything that's going on, he said that he's gone from being one of the best, like the best president since Andrew Jackson, that's the way he says it, the best president since Andrew Jackson, to possibly the worst president in history. Oh. It's like...
I think he is the worst president because of this Iran war.
Yeah.
Of course, if you judge by the effects of his actions, he's the worst president of all time because of this current war. I mean, this is a historical turning point because it's such a huge blunder.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Okay, a blunder. That's what I'm wondering. What?
Oh, yes. 14D chess.
No, I'm serious. No, why?
It's up to 16.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That many dimensions?
No, I'm not saying he's playing some incredibly high-level, weird game, right?
Mm.
How can he make such a bad mistake?
Well, because he's losing his marbles.
Okay, I don't think that's true.
I think it's true. I think it's a clear case of cognitive injury of some kind in the brain, and probably they know about it. They've diagnosed it, and they're keeping it a secret.
I mean, if that were so, they would do that. Yeah, but no. Look at. I was going to say earlier. Look at his schedule. I mean, I can't even imagine anybody keeping a schedule like that.
Right. Not even a young guy.
I mean, he's all across the country at 3 different places in one day. Right. Until late at night.
I think the thing is there are clones.
No, I don't think so.
There are several clones of Trump. And there's one of them is going haywire, and they don't know what to do.
Oh, stop it.
That's actually not too far. Like, Vox Day, this is one of the things where it's like, what's going on with Vox Day now? Vox Day actually thinks that there's, this is the short fake Trump, that this is like actually some kind of double or replacement or something like that.
There's always stories about
and
stuff like that.
See, if he's calculated on a different level, if he had a war, let Iran fight the GCC. Is that GCC, Gulf, CCG or Gulf?
GCC, yeah.
GCC, yeah. If let the GCC, if it let Iran attack all the GCC, destroy all the oil production, and also block the Hormuz.
And everyone will come to us.
Right, everybody will come to us. We have also not only ours, we have Venezuela, we have Canada. If the Canada becomes 51st state, so we went from financial hegemony to energy hegemony, resource hegemony. That's the next stage of the U.S. And at the same time, they have the initiative. I can't remember the name anymore. It's a initiative they started this January to have. It's called something AI, something actually the whole AI chain. So it basically covers everything important to this world, to have their supply chain outside of China. So they have their way. A lot of countries sign up. A lot of countries, even friendly to China, sign up. Of course, not Russia, but a lot of countries, Central America, South America, Asian countries, Arabs, they all sign up. So if they make it that way, so make the supply chain outside of China's influence, they make the U.S. Be the energy hegemony. That's all set for the next 100 years.
See, now I could kind of believe that. So no, I mean that he would have thought that this was the master plan, to do this.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's just the craziness that was always there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the other side's not going to take a lying down. China's going to talk to Iran. Don't do that. Don't bomb all the GCC production. Don't seal block Hormuz forever. Don't do that. Don't do that. And China will talk to Saudi Arabia, maybe UAE. Hey, don't provoke. Just let Iran be. I already talked to Iran, so let's not do that. So that Trump's calculation is not going to materialize. So the other side they had their counter, even though Trump has the brilliance of this calculating a different level, but the other side they have their brilliance too. So it's
but now
just,
they're going to meet. So
right. So that's what they talked about.
Well,
they already worked it out.
I've got a feeling this meeting will be cancelled.
That's possible, but my presentation will not be canceled because it's not limited to the meeting. Because I'm not going to limit myself to meeting because I don't have just one day to digest all the things. But they already have Rubio is going to meet with their foreign minister this week. They already Rubio's there already or something. Okay. They have another delegate they meet last week, something. It's all they paved the way, they're running up to that day. Things are already settled before that day. They're not going to haggle things when the two leaders are together. When they're meeting, things are already settled. They just sign up, they have the ceremonial to show the world, that sort of thing. But that could cancel too. If there's something broke out, the talk breaks up, or something happens in the Middle East and then China did something, and it could be delayed. Probably not cancel. Cancel is a really drastic movement. Because it would delay another month. It's been delayed from April. So.
Right, I thought they were.
Yeah. So it's possible, but hopefully it not happen. Trump, when it comes to China, is pretty calm. I don't know. Maybe it's not really cognitive declining that much, because at least recently, when it comes to China, he immediately moderate his tone. To other countries, it is bombastic, but
that was over a year ago, right?
No, recently.
When was he last in China?
When was that?
When was Trump last in China?
Not in China, mentioning China. In an interview or someone asks him a question or talk, when he has a talk, when he talks about China, it's always more polite, more moderate. He shows me he wants the deal. He wants to have a deal. He doesn't want to anger that part. Because number one, right off the bat, it's so-called rare earth minerals. That's the main thing that holds him back about his all the tariff strategy against China. That's the number one thing. But against, just like what I said about Hormuz and GCC country oil production, over time people find ways around it. You can't just choke people on that thing forever. No, maybe 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. People get around it. People alleviate it with other means. It's the same thing with rare earth. China has the 98%, 89%, 85% of production of the whole world. So they choke you on that. But over time, you can develop your own production, your own mining industry. It's not easy, but you could do that over time if it's necessary. If it justifies the cost. Of course, this is going to justify the cost, because if the other side choke your supply, you have zero. Or you want to buy from the black market, someone take the risk to buy to you, slip through their sanction, all the sanction mechanism, able to get you what you need. It makes the price very high, so it justifies the cost to develop your own supply. So over time, 1 year, 2 years, China's going to lose that leverage. So if you use it, you're going to lose it over time. So that's how it goes. But immediately you have the shock. But over time, everybody knows no matter what that is. The U.S. sanction Russia. Why is Russia able to produce their munitions so efficiently? Because that's the only thing they need to produce. Everything else they buy from China. They don't have the complete economy. So China buy oil from Russia, oil and natural gas, and they will trade energy with their consumer products, or even industrial products, or dual-use products. And so Russia can free up all their manufacturing capacity to produce munition. That's how they can make it. They can't make it without China. Of course, China can't make it without Russia, so that's why they're partners. All because thanks to the U.S. policy. Once the U.S. policy is gone, the threat from U.S. is gone, China and Russia is not going to be tightly.
Really?
Oh, of course not. That's how it goes internationally. Not just Russia, China, and everybody. There's no need. Why should we bind together? There's no need anymore. There's no threat from the U.S. It's time for us to try to get the most from each other. But when there's a need, when there's another power to threaten both of us, then we can bind together. It wouldn't be too late. It can be accomplished any time. That's how it is. There's no permanent friendship or something. There's only permanent interest, right? So if there's interest is there, we can make it happen.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
Hey, David, let me ask you this. Earlier you said that if Israel nuked Iran, there's a very good chance that Russia would nuke Israel, right?
Putin
Well, I
said
would
that.
attack
Putin
Israel.
said that.
I mean,
Putin said that?
people use the word nuke loosely. I mean, what
He alluded to it with,
I mean, it
Yeah, I
seems
don't
to
know.
me that
I think
Israel
it's a
could drop 6
direct quote.
atomic bombs on Iran and it wouldn't completely destroy Iran. There'd still be a nation state there. But anyway, yeah, go on. So
the reason I ask is, if you get into a conspiracy rabbit hole, if you have a conspiracy hammer, every event is a conspiracy nail.
Yeah.
However, I'm
Right.
not adapting it right,
Yeah.
but you get my point.
yeah,
However, if that's true, and especially if Putin said, or effectively said, that Israel would be at nuclear risk if they nuked Iran, because it's in Russia's interest to have a strong Iran. Maybe that's one of the reasons why the neocons hate Russia, is because they know that Russia is ready to just, they, not only for the mere fact that Russia has Iran's back, but Russia, especially if Putin said that Russia is willing to, take care of Israel that way. So then maybe part of the reason why this Ukraine war is still going is because we need to tie up Russia and weaken Russia, according to their logic. I don't know.
Definitely. Yeah, that's different.
well, that was the whole idea of the Ukraine operation from the US point of view, was to break up Russia.
Right, but is the reason for why they would want to do that is because Russia would be a check on their designs for the Middle East via Israel and all that kind of stuff? You think that plays into
I
it at
don't
all?
know.
I don't have an
I
opinion
don't
necessarily.
know. I mean, I don't
Could
know.
be. They already have their sight on Iran, but before they attack Iran, they want to tie down Russia and Ukraine. That could be. Because they had their sight on Iran for a long time, but all the presidents before Trump resisted it.
You know,
Now that Trump happened to agree to that, Russia's already tied down.
you know, I found not too long ago. I've never done the deep dive into like 9/11 conspiracy theories, right? I just my only conclusion is whatever they're telling me from official channels is probably wrong. In what way it's wrong, I don't know, but it's probably wrong. But like, there's apparently a website out there called like 911truth.org or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And there's like lots and lots of stuff on there. I haven't done a deep dive in there. I don't really plan on doing it. That's just I don't have the time for that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was looking something up, and I happened to find this site. And in 2004, they were talking about how like, and it was like, so it was over 20 years ago. In 2004, they were talking about how like, Colin Powell apparently was referring to, back in the 90s, he was referring to the neocons as the crazies. Because like they wanted to do stuff like, and the way they described, they wanted to do stuff in Iran, and they described it the same way, like regime change, and there's moderate elements in Iran that would totally take over if we just took out the leadership and blah blah. It's just like, oh man, like yeah, they've, I mean, you hear it as a talking point, but like it's right there in this article from like 20 plus years ago, that they've had their sights set on it in exactly the way it's been sold to the to the American people today.
It takes a long time. It sometimes takes a long time. Sometimes it's easier to sell Syria. It's easier to sell Somalia. It's easier to sell Lebanon. It's harder to sell Iran because Iran is stronger. It's bigger. It's harder. It's harder not to crack. That's why Obama resisted it. They didn't make it. Didn't make it through first Trump administration. Then they make it through Biden. Now finally, because all the things came together. Like Trump had such a wonderful experience with Venezuela, kidnapping Maduro. Now it's he happened to agree to it, or maybe there's an Epstein file thing he was worried about. Maybe the multiple things. And he wanted to get back and get at the Europeans because they were behind the Russia Gate and colluded with the Democrats, all that stuff. There are many things come to play. Trump's world as a politician, as a presidential politician, is very complex. He knows more than we do. He's exposed to different forces, probably more than that I can imagine. So anything's possible, and maybe all are possible.
How implicated is Trump in terms of Epstein?
Well, I'm still waiting for some amazing revelation.
Yeah.
It hasn't come. I mean, it's
people keep saying it, and I'm not sure that
there's
there's
so
any
much
there.
material you could spend 12 hours a day on it and still not keep up with it. I mean, But first of all, why does nobody ask the question, what happened to the birthday book?
What's that?
The birthday book.
Oh, birthday book.
That page from a birthday book.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be one of several pages.
Probably did nothing to it.
But I mean, it
That's
suggests that it was a hoax, right? Because if it would be in the files, right? And they would have found it by now, and they would have found the other pages, and that would answer the question. Well, first of all, are there other pages? In other words, was there really a birthday book, or is this just made up by someone? But if there was, for example, there's a picture of a naked woman. Was there that same picture on every page? Right? Except for little details like his half signature on her crotch, right? Apart from little individual details like that, were these just given by Ghislaine or someone to everybody who was a friend and well-wisher of Jeffrey, and say and she might have even made up the particular comments, because that's the way it might be done. You know, you just get you're saying you're all chipping in and giving a page, but we don't expect you to compose it yourself. You know, I'll do it for you. That'd be the way it could happen. But I mean, the more time goes on and nothing is said about that birthday book suggests that it's a total hoax.
Probably.
You know.
I never looked into it, so I don't
And
know.
I thought at the time.
Oh, you're in the birthday book. Oh, I never looked at it. Oh.
Yeah, no, I know that look. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I know the look of Melania. Remember the press conference
was
like
that
2 weeks
about?
ago? That's about she's trying to get ahead of the news. She found out she felt scared that something's gonna be leaked. She got a blackmail or whatever. She was advised to get ahead of the news. Otherwise, how do you explain it? This is totally
is it news that still has yet to drop?
like she was used to be one of the Epstein girls, and Epstein introduced her to Donald Trump, that sort of thing. She said, "No, Donna and I met, I guess, independently, something like that."
Donna?
She always called her Donna. Yeah. So she wants to get ahead of the news. How else can you explain that? It's just out of nowhere. Not even Donald Trump didn't know ahead of time that she's gonna pull that out.
So he said, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just she made that decision herself. She jumped ship. She said, "Donald Trump, I'm not gonna stay on the sinking ship with this Donna, who cheated on me, who's a scumbag. I just used him to stay in this country. He was a client, or his friends were clients of me. You know, I was working for Epstein and the other Italian guy, the model agency. It was just escort service. Or massage or something, happy ending shit." I mean, you don't want that thing out. You're first lady now, right? Okay. You don't want that out. So you want to jump ship. You want to stay away, run away as fast as possible, if you can. You don't know if you can make it. I mean, people still come out. You're smart. Your advisors, people are smart too. They have their way. So let's see who gets ahead. I mean, that's the only explanation. There's something still in the Epstein files that's damaging, that they are scared of.
But I mean, my general impression, and I haven't, you know, I've spent like several hours at this, but I still don't claim to have scratched the surface. And there are many people who are looking at it 12 hours a day, every day, you know. But I mean, so my impression may be incorrect in some way, but my general impression is there's far more dirt on the Democrats than on the Republicans. Far more.
True, there could be.
But the mainstream media report it as though it's particularly bad for Trump. But it's not particularly, I mean, what I've seen specifically quoted is not particularly bad for it. I mean, it may be bad to have been a friend of Epstein at all, ever. Right, that's in a sense bad, because it shows poor judgment once you accept that Epstein was a unique villain and so on. But, you know, there's no... And there is this general point that everybody talks about Epstein as though he was a pedophile when there is no evidence of that.
Oh, okay.
Right? I mean...
Well, he's with those girls underage.
A pedophile is not someone who likes women who are a year or two below the legal age.
Oh, really? That's not pedophile?
That's not
legally, if you're below...
Pedophile is a medical judgment, and it means someone who's attracted to pre-pubertic girls, right?
Oh, okay. But he was convicted. He went to jail for a couple of years in Florida.
For prostitution, not for anything to do with pedophilia.
That's human trafficking, or what was that?
Well, it was actually referred to prostitution.
Oh, okay.
So something like soliciting a minor for prostitution or something like that, maybe.
Maybe. I'm not sure it was even mentioned, the minor. But anyway, the thing is, I got that from, what's his name?
Michael Tracy?
No, who's that lawyer guy?
Viva Frey?
No, that
Alan Dershowitz?
that Zionist.
Alan Dershowitz?
Yeah, Dershowitz. Oh. And Dershowitz is obviously, I mean, I get the feeling with Dershowitz that he's got a legitimate gripe about the way things have been presented, and he's not really guilty of anything criminal or anything like that. But at the same time, he's obviously so fiercely defensive and slightly ashamed of the whole thing, you know, that he can't sort of keep his cool when he's explaining this. So, you know, that's the way I read him. You know, so.
What was Epstein up to?
Oh yeah, no, there is a huge mystery. I mean, was he just remarkably quick and adroit at seizing little opportunities and magnifying them into big money, or is there something more to it? You know, I don't know.
He's a free agent. He usually worked for both sides, CIA and Mossad, but more frequently it's Mossad than CIA. He's a free agent. He has no loyalty to U.S. or Israel. But he happens to have a lot of connections with Israel and the U.S. as well, which is very, very useful. And
but how
he was a billionaire. He got money from Israel connected people who got their money, and they gave him the money so he can be wealthy. He can attract those wealthy, powerful people in the U.S. with his money, with his island, with his plane, with his yacht, right? You gotta have money to make friends with the billionaires.
How did he get connected to all these?
There is a big mystery there. There's a big mystery there. I mean, and presumably, it could well be that it all happened in a very straightforward way, that everybody involved kept quite sensibly kept secret. You know.
Oh, there's a guy interviewed by Tucker Carlson like 3 months ago, about Epstein. He had a pretty detailed, kind of convincing kind of detail from him. I can't remember that. You can go through Tucker Carlson's channel. You'll find it. Go back to months. Yeah. Well, my common sense is he will have to make things as gross as possible to make it effective blackmail. That's why he goes out of his way. He pushed the envelope to make everything as gross as possible. Pedophile. Maybe he himself is not a pedophile.
But there's no direct evidence of that, is there?
He's not a pedophile. I'm just, he has motivation to make his business a pedophile business, so we'll be scared. Otherwise, you say, "Oh, just underage, it's no big deal. I'll just admit to it." And but it's pedophile is a different level.
Yeah, there was no pedophilia involved in this at all. You know, there were no 8-year-olds or 9-year-olds involved.
How about I heard this about eating the babies or something?
Yeah,
but I'm just saying he will push the envelope to make things as gross as possible. Yeah. Otherwise, people just brush it off. It's not really blackmail. I don't care.
I don't think we really have good evidence that Epstein engaged in blackmail.
But what was his business? Why would people pay him?
Well, yeah, but that's a mystery anyway. I mean, if it was blackmail, if he did a lot of blackmail, it was probably of the never mentioned kind. You know, that he would go to someone and say, "Can you do me this favor?" And the person thinks to themselves, "Oh, he knows so much about me, I better not offend him." You know, in other words, it may not have been proactive blackmail at all.
No, it's not. It's like
passive blackmail.
It's like then Yahoo comes to Trump, say, "Hey, I need you to do this for me." You know, he will hint like, "We know something you did with Epstein, so we know we have your file. If you don't do this for me, I can control my people to expose you. So you better say yes to me. If you say no to me, I have no control over those guys."
Like good cop, bad cop. Like, I can't control my friend here.
That's how you talk. You don't talk to Trump that, "Oh, I'm going to expose you." No, you talk. He gets a message. There's no point of direct confrontation. We're both grown men. We're both the head of states, right? There's no point. But you get the message.
Like, listen, Donald, I'm on your side. I'm on your side. It's these crazies I have to deal with.
That's how they talk.
Yeah.
Like, believe me, that's how they talk. But they know, you're not my friend. You're threatening me. They know, but there's no point, like a yelling match, because you're gonna come back 2 months later. You still have to talk to this guy. So there's no point in yelling match. You're still calling this guy every other week, right? So there's no point. You get the message across,
Plus, at least to maintain at least a thin veneer of plausible deniability.
Yes, exactly.
You know.
You've done this business. You sound like you.
What are you talking about?
I don't know what I'm talking about. You're in the Epstein
I
file.
don't know. It
probably.
sounds like maybe you're in that business, you know.
That thing is behind the dark line. It's like your name's. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Somebody's going to
Listen,
write.
they just told me it was a massage. That's all they told me.
What's going to happen is a couple of years from now, someone's going to write a 2,000-page book with a great integrated theory of Epstein and what he's based on looking at all the files, you know, and then there's going to be some controversy about whether this huge book is correct or incorrect.
I think there's already like a behemoth book. I think it's over 1,000 pages. I'd have to look it up. By Whitney Webb. And I think
I know that woman. Oh, she's good,
like,
but she's a little weird.
I don't like take in her content as much. There's only so much time in the day. I'm sure she's good. I'm sure she's interesting. I remember a few years ago when Jobst linked to something or mentioned something from Unlimited Hangout, which is either her site or a site where she's like a fixture, you know, like a regular or almost permanent presence. And she wrote a whole book about, you know, the whole Epstein thing. It was a behemoth book. But I know that, like, you know, this one guy, you know, he thinks he's smart, but he's not really that smart. He's this guy I know in Pennsylvania, and he says he listens to independent journalist Michael Tracy, and Michael Tracy has, you know, been spending, you know, post after post apparently trying to debunk all the more sensational claims of Epstein, you know, like he was running a pedophile ring or he was running a blackmail ring or all this kind of stuff. And look at Virginia Giuffre, she's a serial fabulous, you know, she made up her story against whatever because she retracted it against Dershowitz or whatever. And it's like, look, man, I don't know. I'm just going with, you know, there's a big gaping hole where, like, an explanation should be on what was he up to? What was his, you know, like, how did he get all these connections? How did he get his money, you know?
He used to be a money manager, asset manager. He get the list of clients.
That's a strange thing, isn't it, like everything else? Because he walks into this job without any experience.
Right.
And suddenly he's doing all this.
Well, because he's
stuff.
such a
And the same
math
when he got
genius.
that job teaching, and he didn't really have the qualifications.
Right.
You know?
But he's a math genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of gaps.
Yeah, like, and then, like, you know, just so many different things, like, Les Wexner, was he the guy, was he the Victoria's Secret, like, owner guy, or
founder,
something like that? And it's like, he gave Epstein, like, power of attorney for his entire finances.
Yeah, that's...
Who does that? That's
right.
weird. Like, that's weird.
Yeah, something that's skipped.
Yeah, there's,
Wow, the guy.
there's a, yeah. So there's One Nation Under Blackmail is the book. And it looks like there's 2 volumes. The second volume is 432 pages. Which is crazy.
How about the theory that Epstein is alive?
Oh yeah. No, I've often.
You don't believe that?
I thought that from the beginning. Yeah.
He does think that.
I don't know the source, but I saw it on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it doesn't, given the mystery surrounding his last moments and everything, it doesn't sound at all unlikely that he would have arranged it to, you know, be snuck out of the prison.
It's very hard. But there evidence, like his nose, the dead body, they roll out of the jail cell, different kind of nose. Also the coroner report, the guy with the prostate is like a little bit enlarged and the testicles are kind of small with something remaining in the bladder. But Epstein in an email to people telling them I have prostate like removal, that's why I need Viagra, da da da. But that dead body that rolled out is supposed to be Epstein had a prostate, slightly enlarged. So, how do you explain that? Maybe their explanation is it's a false information. It's not. There's no such body. There's no such coroner report or something. That will be the only explanation. But if that report is true, then you can say Epstein's email. He didn't explicitly say I had a prostate removal. He said something else. You can imply, that prostate removal, something like that. There's different explanation, but it's possible. Probably not very likely because it's really hard undertaking to swap the body out and swap something in, something else in. It's like someone ran into someone that looks like what's it called, Janelle Maxwell in Canada. Ghislaine Maxwell had the same front teeth, like a little gap here, a little chip there, and it just looked like her. Of course, the guy had a camera on her, like a cell phone on her, and asked her a question. Are you? Of course, she said, "Oh, I'm not." But if you slow the footage, it just freeze that frame. You see the same teeth. You know how teeth can be used as an identifier, right? Your dental record. So if you see the same teeth pattern.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, that's more likely because she's alive, serving jail sentence. So you can swap out, have some patsy in for money to serve the sentence for her on her behalf. The woman's alive, she's out. That's more likely. But Epstein as a dead man, it's very hard to swap out the body, right? So
that's another rabbit hole. I was just like, maybe he's dead, maybe he's alive. I never really dove into it. Like, it's kind of fascinating, but I never really dove into it just because, like, okay, so let's say I find the answer to that question, then what?
Yeah, so
what do I get for that?
Yeah, I just find it fun.
Yeah, it is fun, but like...
And I wouldn't spend more than like 10 minutes on that.
Yeah. I saw that too where, somebody was pointing out like the nose is different and look at the, like it was like you could see a side profile of the face when he's laying down, right? It was a stretcher or a gurney or whatever it was. And,
it's hard to say.
And it's just like, yeah, I don't know.
When you're dead, maybe you just look different when you're dead.
Maybe he's alive, maybe he's dead.
You don't have the circulation. Your nose, even the nose, the soft, what's it called, the collagen or whatever structure will be shifted a little bit.
Septum?
It's not the same.
Septum?
Yeah, something like that. This part is soft bone, right? It's not like a hard bone. It may be different, so it's hard. It's like not hard evidence. It's just. But yeah, like you said, it's really not worth your time. I mean, so if he's alive, so what? Are you gonna have an interview with him? You're gonna track him down? It's not very likely, right? It's not. It's even more impossible.
It reminds me of like. I'm reminded of, like, do you remember when it was like a number of weeks ago, maybe over a month ago, where I think people were speculating that Benjamin Netanyahu had been killed in an airstrike or a missile strike or whatever.
Oh, wow.
And,
yeah, I remember that.
People were looking at some video and they were saying like, oh, look, it must be AI. There's like 6 fingers and, where did his tooth in the side of his mouth go?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's an artifact of AI. And I looked at that and I was just like, it wouldn't surprise me if he was dead, and they did throw an AI image out there. But like I looked at it and I was like, this doesn't look like AI to me, because if what I have to go on that they're trying to point out is 6 fingers, I'm like, that doesn't look like 6 fingers. That just looks like a bent thumb and 4 other fingers.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I think sometimes people they're a little too quick to jump on things.
But there are other videos that's more clear that it was AI.
Sure.
But doesn't mean he's dead. Israel, they can produce AI. It takes 50 minutes. They can produce AI to confuse people. They are more than happy to confuse people. It's actually in their advantage to confuse people, to confuse their enemy. And when people are saying, "Oh, he's dead," he's not in a rush to come out and say, "Hey, I'm alive." No, he just wants people to stay confused, and he will come out when he thinks it's a good time to come out. Then he came out.
I think there's a book that the title of it is, I think it's the motto of of Mossad, by way of deception.
Yeah.
You know, so like, of course, you know, it's all, you know, whatever they can do to create an asymmetry of knowledge where,
Yeah.
you know, somebody else's doesn't know or they're confused, like that's to their advantage. You
Yeah,
know?
because nowadays you have weapon, you shoot some missiles like hundreds of miles away. You want to know if you hit the target. So if you want you want to know if you want to try to hit that target. If the target is Benjamin Netanyahu, you want to know if you got him. So you want to still keep tracking him down, try to assassinate him, or you're done. So that's why they don't let you know. They let you keep you guessing. Maybe you waste more missiles. If you want to hit Benjamin Netanyahu, you probably used your most advanced, most valuable missiles. They want you to waste more of your ammo, the most valuable ammo. That's one reason. That's why Israel. If you go to Israel, if you go to front line, you take photos, video, they're gonna get you because they will say you're trying to provide that information to my enemy, so they can verify if I got the, my bombing campaign was successful or I have to redo it. That's the same thing in World War II too. You know, they're gonna get people like that because spies do that too. So it's not allowed. It's important.
So rising gas prices. I'm trying to figure out a way that I can convince like the boomer conservatives who support this Iran war to give me money to help me pay for my gas. Because like I oppose this and they support it, and I want them to give me money to make up for the difference in, like, I was paying, I remember it was just not that long ago that gas was like $3.17 in my neighborhood.
Now it's what, 4 something, right?
It's getting close to 5. I'm seeing some gas stations are past 5.
Okay.
You know, I know that I think most of them are probably north of $5 in the city limits.
Okay. Yeah, it's
But like,
more expensive than.
Yeah, out in the suburbs, I'm seeing a few where it's over 5. Most of them are under 4, but it's more than 4.50 right now. The gas station near my house was at 4.77.
Okay.
Right, so that's like $1.60, roughly $1.60 more per gallon.
It's
Than
like 33%.
That's a lot of money,
more,
dude.
right? Yeah,
Like that's a lot of money.
It's also different neighborhoods. Even in the city limit, different neighborhood, different prices.
Yeah.
And Illinois is kind of on the high side probably because of taxes. If you go to New Jersey, if you go to Texas, maybe lower. And there are different places where you're not allowed as a customer to pump your own gas. You have to have the attendant do that. Right? The different states have different laws.
Really? Why is that?
Safety. They can't trust the customer, the average person, to handle the highly flammable, combustible material and pump it. I mean, just think. Well, I lived in New Jersey for 4 years, in the early 2000s. I don't know if they changed. And I know California's on the high side, Illinois on the high side. If you go to Indiana, it's probably lower. If you go to New Jersey, it's definitely lower. Even though you have attendant pump the gas for you, the gas price is still lower than Illinois.
That's probably all taxes, differences in taxes.
Yeah. Taxes, probably logistics. I don't know, mainly taxes. I think mainly the taxes.
Isn't New Jersey though like a high property tax state?
Yeah.
Yeah.
High property tax, high income tax, state income tax. New Jersey was the highest. Oh, New Jersey was the biggest economy next to California of the United States, all the states, I think.
New Jersey?
Yeah. Oh, when I was there.
But New Jersey's really small compared to other
yeah,
states.
you would think, because they have these pharmaceutical companies. You know how much money pharmaceutical companies make, or their big industry.
They make a lot of money, especially if they can make injectable products that they can put on school immunization schedules. They will absolutely make a lot of money.
Okay.
That's where the big
bucks
are.
Drug. Yeah, they have the pipeline of new drugs. And
that's why kids are getting vaccinated with like 70 some odd vaccines.
What?
Yeah, the vaccine schedule is insane today compared to what it was like when I was a kid. when I was a kid, I don't know, it might have been like 9, 10, 11, something like that. Now it's like
No,
over
not
70.
even.
I don't remember my daughter taking that much. Maybe one shot will be like 40 something. I don't know.
Yeah,
don't
I think they
remember
do
my
have
daughter
it where it's
taking
like
that
they'll
much.
give you one shot and it takes care of like 4 or 5 different immunizations or
yeah.
something like that. But
Yeah, I don't know. I
like
don't keep track.
the vaccines, I remember reading something. It was
Uh-huh.
like, of course, the incentive would be to try to make it mandatory that you have
Yeah.
to get this vaccine and that vaccine to go
Yeah.
to school. Like I remember one time they were. It was like an HPV vaccine, like Gardasil, I think it was called. That somewhere in Texas, they made it mandatory that girls had to get the Gardasil vaccine for like HPV because we need to prevent cancer because HPV is something that can cause cancer or something like that.
Right.
And I remember reading that and I was like, that's insane. Why would they do that? And then it was years later where it was like, oh yeah, one of the most lucrative things you can do is if you can get your vaccine product on the vaccine schedule, because then that means every school in the country is going to mandate that.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's where the big bucks
Yeah.
are.
Well, and then here came COVID.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
the COVID, right? I took my daughter, she was younger at the time, right? I took my daughter to her yearly checkup with the pediatrician. Always asks, you want her give her COVID shot? I said no. without even thinking, I would just say no.
Oh,
But
I
next year,
don't
my wife took her.
Oh.
My wife said yes.
Yeah.
What can I do? She took 4 shots or so.
Oh my gosh.
Who took 4 shots?
My wife.
With 4
Booster
COVID shots?
shot. 2 shots, then a booster, and then booster. 2 shots are standard. Whether you're Moderna or Pfizer, or 2 shots.
Yeah.
That's standard. But then after that will be booster, called booster shot.
Right.
There's another company, just 1 shot that will do it.
That was
Yeah.
Johnson & Johnson.
Johnson 1
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
So I took 2 shots. I did 2 shots, a standard one. When here came the booster shot, I said no. I already have enough knowledge to say no, comfortably.
Yeah.
Before it was I was confused. I was I was scared. And my wife, she told me, because I got the first shot very early. She said, I have this connection through her school or something. She taught university. I can't remember.
Oh, was it you couldn't do anything if
She taught university.
schools
That
or
was
whatever.
very
You
early.
had-
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said,
Like the kids wouldn't have been able to go to school, to college.
no, that's later. But in the very beginning, they just developed this the shots in December. The next year, we're talking about 2020, December 2020. So this January 2021, they start giving out. They're very limited dosage because they just got to develop. They try to ramp up production.
Yeah.
So only very limited people get them. So who gets it first? School teachers, whatever. My wife taught university, so she was a school teacher. So her family, herself, my wife said, hey, you gotta get it. It's your privilege. It's the only people who have connection. You go get it. So I was, okay. And I was confused, right? Okay, I'll get it. I get it. And then 6 weeks later, it's the second shot. True. The guy before me, he was a school teacher. We waiting line to go into the clinic. That was early. Then they have enough production, enough shots to give everyone. That's when they mandate, if you don't take the shot, you can't go to school.
Yeah.
And then you don't go to school, you just go remote. My daughter had 1 year, her full year, she never saw her teacher in person. Always online.
Oh my gosh. That's just so crazy.
And the full year. And the next year, partial year, saw the teacher. Then first it's 100% at home, homeschool. Homeschool, not homeschool, the remote school, virtual. Then they switched to like 3 days a week at school, 2 days at home, so they can sanitize. So Wednesday, everybody stays home. But Monday, Tuesday, this batch goes to school, the other batch stays home.
Oh my goodness.
And the other, the swap. The Wednesday is when they sanitize the whole classroom, the whole school.
Gosh.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
For nothing.
Yeah.
Who cares? Nobody should care about COVID, especially kids. Kids don't get COVID.
The government sites, that I have to go on, they have a little banner at the top that still says, don't forget, get your COVID and your flu shot together. There's available now,
Yeah.
keep safe, there's still today.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I was on a college campus recently because I found that there was a lecture I wanted to attend and stuff. And at this campus, I will not name it at the moment, it says, vaxxed, relaxed, and still in class. At this campus, brackets, students must submit their medical immunization records to continue enrollment. Students who don't comply may have a registration hold.
Comply.
That's right. Comply. Comply.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
I'm glad I don't go to that place.
You never took a shot?
No.
Oh wow, you should be proud of yourself.
Oh,
Either.
Oh, you didn't either?
Yeah, and
You didn't either?
No, I did. I did the first
You
time.
have to go to
the
work
first
at
bit.
that place, right?
Yeah, well,
I go to
and I
CSO.
was part of the evil the team to make sure that everybody gave me their records and stuff like that, because it was like, yeah, it's so horrible how they get you.
So anyway, the Constitution needs to be revised a little bit. There's this amendment that I think needs to be repeated. No, I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I remember one time
Just to tweak you.
going.
But
we had spots on the floor, 6 feet.
oh, the social
Elevator.
distancing.
Yeah.
social
Oh
distancing.
my God,
Like,
it was so awful.
Day one, immediately, I was like, I am not taking this crap at all. Like, no.
But you-
Like,
Dylan hasn't
Yeah,
either.
but if you go to
good for him. Yeah.
if you go to certain places, if you go to school, you're a school kid. I mean, you pretty much don't have a choice. You
Don't
just
have a
have
choice. Yeah.
They have a way they scare you and they make you easy. It's easier to force you into it because they scare you first. And the parents, my wife's argument is, oh, I can't afford to get sick. I can't afford to be. I have 2 jobs as students and blah, blah, blah. I can't be out for 2 days because I have COVID. I can't afford that, so I have to take shots. Yeah, true, but
And people got sick who
From
had
the
shots.
shots.
that's right.
From the shots,
That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
It's harmful. People are suspecting the long COVID, so-called long COVID, is actually a side effect from the shot.
From the shots.
Yeah.
But I mean, even besides that, it's like, oh, well, so that she can't afford to be out, get sick, so she has to get the shot, so they get sick anyway.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't.
It turns
didn't
out,
do
yeah.
anything. It didn't do anything.
I think at the beginning it was effective, but over time, because the evolution of the virus, different strains, it loses the efficacy. Even though you develop new vaccine, because the virus is mutating faster,
Yeah.
then you can develop new version of the
Yeah.
vaccine. So you can't keep up anymore. So that's the loser. But the good thing is the thing about virus is that the more times it has changed, the less
Yeah.
harmful it is, the less powerful it
Yeah.
is. So
Yeah. So dumb.
Day
Yeah.
one, I was not having it.
Ursula lost a job because of it.
right, military
she
people
got into,
too.
She got into the Grant Park
Wow.
for the summertime, but they were going to make her take a booster, and she just said no.
So they fired her, huh?
Or they just, said, oh, sorry, too bad for you.
I went to CSO. There's a program for children, so kids and parents go to like a smaller room. They have different setup. They play different music stuff, and you have to go and you have to have mask on and have to check your the COVID shot
Oh my God.
proof something. They give you a little card, right?
Yeah,
They check that, and
yeah.
otherwise they won't let you in. You just get out. You're not supposed to be in.
Sounds like a vaccine passport.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's called, a vaccine passport.
Yeah. One of these, maybe this will be a book I'll eventually get to, but, Tom Woods, libertarian, like,
I know Tom Woods.
Yeah.
Economist, right?
Historian. His training is in
Really?
history, yeah. I think I got a
economist.
I think he got a PhD from
He's a
Harvard.
professor somewhere, right?
I don't think he's a professor. He's a podcaster.
podcast,
He's been
yeah,
at the
he
Mises
done
Institute,
something for him.
and he's written a number of books. And one of those books is called Diary of a Psychosis, and it's all about like I think it's all about like COVID, the COVID response, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure, like Tom Woods strikes me as like eminently solid. So like if he wrote it,
It's kind of nerdy.
uh,
That guy.
maybe.
Um,
He might come off as a little square if you were going to use a term from
okay.
decades ago. He might come off as a square, but like he's a straight talking, straight shooter, knows his stuff.
Good talker. Yeah.
Good talker. Good cadence, enunciation, and all that. And his podcast, he's had like over 2,500 shows. David has been on his show a few times.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember.
His most recent time was, I think, to promote the book, The Conquistador with His Pants Down.
Oh, I incorrectly remembered him as an economist. I know why. Because I read his book about Fed. He is a historian, but I remember he wrote one book about Fed, the Federal Reserve.
He probably knows.
He said, I just put together a book. It's not a big book. He, not as a non-economist, he just throw together that book very quickly.
He probably knows plenty about economics just by mere fact of his association with the Mises Institute.
Yeah.
There are economics up and down in there. They're like Austrians there, right?
Yeah.
Mostly.
And that other guy who's got a similar show, he is an economist. What's his name?
The other guy was a similar show.
Yeah.
Murphy.
Oh, Bob Murphy.
Yeah. And he's an odd combination. He's an Austrian economist and a born-again Christian.
Yeah.
I mean, he sort of became a born-again Christian within the last few years. I don't know exactly when. But,
Good for him. He's heading in the right direction.
You have something you're proud of. I have something I'm proud of too. Because in the beginning, near the beginning of the Russian military operation, what's it called?
Special military
operation.
SMO for short, if you want.
SMO. And there was I went to a CSO, a program. The musician, I think it's a cellist. He was from Ukrainian guy. So, of course, the host would say, "Oh, he's from Ukraine! Oh, everybody!" And then he will play the Ukrainian anthem, and people will stand up, standing ovation. Like very sympathetic, very applauding him for his courage, for his suffering. Very sympathetic. The audience all stood up. I was sitting. I didn't stand up.
Nice.
My wife stood up. Me and my wife, she stood up. I said, "What the fuck you got?" She didn't say what the fuck, but that's the attitude. I would just sit there. And there's some older lady around me. They were like, this is like 20 minutes. My wife couldn't stand it. So I was just sitting there. Early on. Not like COVID. It took me a while to get straightened out. But early on, Ukraine thing, I was like, this is not right. Because I've been following the news. Even before the war started, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of diplomatic maneuver and stuff. I was like, this is ridiculous. So I'm not going to stand up. It's stupid. Number one, you brought it up. It's a musical concert. Come on, you brought it up. It's inappropriate. It's politics.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? That for that reason, I don't have to stand up. Not to mention, I think the whole thing is bullshit. The war is bullshit. The whole Western narrative is bullshit. So I have two reasons not to stand up.
It reminds me of the time that I was in the audience and there was a panel discussion on the importance of female suffrage, and everybody stood up at the end of it, and I just sat down. I didn't do anything, and everybody looked at me all weird.
But the old ladies around me, so I wasn't too worried about someone smack me on the back of my head, because they're old ladies. They're not going to commit to violence, right? So, but I'm immune to that kind of pressure, or people look at me. My wife couldn't
Everybody
stand
was
it.
putting the blue and yellow flags on their Facebook pages.
Oh my God, that was so.
and stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm virtuous, you know.
It's virtue signaling is what that was. That's
Maybe they have some Ukrainian tie or.
No.
You get a pass for
No.
that. Yeah.
No, but they didn't. You know that they didn't.
Oh yeah, most of them probably didn't. No. Yeah.
I have neighbors
I
doing
mean, I
that
feel
too.
bad for people who'd lost stuff, you know,
Sure.
for who had to suffer through any of that, you know. But that's just.
Yeah, I have neighbors. We have balcony on the second floor. They have lights on the balcony, yellow and blue. They have that on until a few months ago. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
It's a long time. You know, you have Christmas, you put it out and take it down. But that light, those lights for Ukrainian flag, stayed on for until probably a few months ago. I noticed, it's gone now.
In my neighborhood, I won't say what legislative district I was in, but like the local state politician, I think, because I looked at the sign and it was like, paid for by friends of so and so politician, right? And it was the blue and yellow. It was the Ukraine flag, you know, and it was like, I stand with Ukraine or we stand with Ukraine, one of those. And I was just like, where are we getting these like political campaign? Like it was the same kind of signs you see like during campaign season. You know, it was the same size. It was you put it in the grass with the two metal things that stick in the grass. And I was just like, where are this? And so I looked up close and I was just like, oh, it's this guy, you know. And I'll never forget one of I think I mentioned it before, but there's this one dating podcaster that, you know, every now and then, every few months I'll check in on him and see what he's saying. And I remember, might have been a couple years ago where he just had this throwaway line. You know, he doesn't really delve into politics too much, but he's aware enough that like he and I would probably agree on 95% of the stuff. And one of the things he said, which I thought was hilarious, he's like, Ukraine is the dirty mattress where the Democrats hide their money. I was just like,
a good one. That's a good one.
that was so good.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy's good.
Yeah,
Every now and then he has like some good
Hunter,
ones.
right? Hunter was like, what's the oil company in Ukraine?
He
was a director.
Burisma?
Yeah. That's oil energy company.
It was like an energy company or something like that. Yeah.
On the chess site that I go to play chess, a huge number of it's got the name of the player that you're playing, and they're from all over the world, you know, and some of them would have a Ukrainian flag and the phrase "show your flair." Why are you showing your flair?
Please tell me what flair you showed.
And then what a lot of them did was that it says, "Ask us about our stand on Ukraine," and they're still there. A lot of them, you know.
Yeah.
On a chess playing site, you know.
Yeah.
And I always feel like making a nasty remark, you know. And sometimes I play a Ukrainian player because you play it from all over. You get matched up. I feel like saying after I've beaten them, "This is what the Russians have been doing to you."
Oh, you're so bad.
Well, I didn't actually say it. I know. I just don't mention it at all. I don't rise to the bait, but I think it's outrageous. Really, it's just chess, right? And you know, and there isn't a provision for being anti-Ukraine. You know.
I thought you were gonna I thought you were gonna tell me like. You know, so they play show your flair, and it was the Ukraine flag, and like you had the opportunity to show flair, and like maybe your flag was the Russian flag or something like that, just to screw with you.
If I knew how to do that, I would have done it.
Yeah, probably.
Like I almost wonder, like, you know, maybe this makes me a coward in some respects, but like part of me wants to just troll people and put like in my window a big ass sign that says "I stand with Russia" and like a big Russian flag with the
someone gonna break your window.
Right? I don't.
You don't need that. Yeah, you don't need that.
I don't need that. You know, There's this one pastor who like I listen to his stuff because he's like really good on all the important questions like race, the Middle Eastern country and its inhabitants that we're all supposed to support until we die, um, and the double X chromosome having individuals. And so he's right on all those issues. But he has
right.
he has some like merch that he's selling, and like there's a few of them that are pretty good, and one of them is which it checks off a number of boxes. It's just it says diversity for Israel, and it's just like that's so good. That's so good. Because I'll never forget. It was something that was on the VDARE site before they got basically shut down by Letitia James. I think a while back, Lydia Brimlow, Peter Brimlow's wife, had a conversation with Tucker. It was a remote conversation, but they had a conversation, and she was talking about like how Letitia James, the same one who went after Trump,
Yeah.
had basically gone after the
Where was she
VDARE.
at?
What's that?
Where was she at? Was she in
New
New
York.
York?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The basic super short version of that story is they had like established their non-profit, not-for-profit, whatever it was, to set up the VDARE Foundation or whatever it was. They set it up in New York like in the late 90s, like 1999 or something like that. Well before they had any reason to believe that the process would be corrupted and weaponized against them, right? But like Letitia James gets in there and she starts going after like VDARE in terms of like demanding document requests and discovery, and like they hadn't even been charged with anything, but they were being put through the ringer of so much litigation style process stuff that it was like the process is the punishment, right? Because complying with all this stuff means you have to retain attorneys, and you have to legal expenses and all that kind of stuff.
Say harassment or something, or
I don't know, but like so anyway, they ended up the organization ended up folding, and now I think they're still going after them personally now, which is a issue. And
oh my gosh.
And what's the rationale for this?
I haven't looked into it, but I know that because
They broke some regulation or something.
It might have something to do with because like the castle that they acquired in order to like that's their property. But like I think it's owned technically by like the Castle Foundation or something like that, and so maybe they're alleging that things mingled in a way it's not supposed. I don't know. I don't know, but they're going after them personally. I didn't read and look into it because I gotta, I'm on the Substack email list for Peter, and he sent something out, and that they're asking for money actually, and that's like I wish I could send money, but on their site a number of years ago when it was still active, it's up, but it's not updated, or they don't do anything there. Steve Saylor, I think it was Steve Saylor, had a piece about the ADL, Anti-Defamation League. ADL and SPLC are like peas in a pod. They're both terrible, right?
Yeah.
Southern Poverty Law Center, yeah. And it was great because it juxtaposed the like Tucker. I think he might have still been on Fox News at the time. Tucker had talked about like the Great Replacement or something like that, and if you go to the ADL site and probably the SPLC site, but the ADL site will call that like a racist white supremacist conspiracy theory and stuff like that, which means it's bad and you shouldn't even think that could even be possible, right? You like if you even think it's possible, you're a bad person. Is basically what that means, right? So the ADL says this, and the Great Replacement theory is, whether it's by design or not, white demographics are declining as a result of immigration, especially in the wake of the 1965 Immigration Act. Peter Brimlow wrote a book called Alienation that goes into all that kind of stuff back in like 1995. But so Great Replacement, or declining white demographics in America. And if you're concerned about that as a white person, you're like a racist white nationalist, a horrible person, right? Okay. And it linked to like a VDARE thing. The VDARE thing linked to an ADL thing where they were talking about that.
Yeah.
So that was on top, and then the bottom thing was the completely 180 different attitude they had when it concerned Israel. and it concerned immigrants to Israel
Oh.
and allowing, migrants from the area. Maybe it was Afghan migrants, maybe it was like Palestinian, like having a one-state solution, Palestinians. I forget what it was, but the point was they're super concerned about their demographics because if, like, whatever the group was that wasn't them was coming in sufficient numbers, like, well, not only would the sufficient numbers put them at risk, but, like, they have higher birth rates, and so, like, higher birth rates, and they have these numbers, and it's like the sheer brazenness of the double standard makes your blood boil with anger. I'm not speaking from personal experience because I'm not an angry man, right? I'm a good man with a good heart, and I love everybody. Okay, but I can just imagine like somebody else, a hypothetical person who's not as developed as I am, getting blood-boilingly angry at the brazen hypocrisy of what can be broken down as diversity for thee, but not for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, they know the score about diversity. So, which then makes you wonder, okay, so if diversity for the people you care about, which are your own kin, is a bad thing, then what does that mean if you're pushing it so hard on people who are not your own kin in the United States? Does that mean that's kind of like you could call it a demographic weapon? I think it might be. I mean, this is just me trying to put some logic together. Like, what kind of conclusions am I supposed to draw with this double standard?
White guilt.
Right. White guilt needs to,
Part of it.
I'm going to get my inspiration from the Christian pastor Jesse Lee Peterson, like, no more white guilt. Like, white people are great, and, we need to have more of them, and there's nothing wrong with them. Doesn't mean that you hate anybody else.
Why can't you guys have more children? It's hard to have children. You got to give those Muslims, those other people, some credit to have willing to have more children, because it's hard to have children, right? It's a lot of work.
So
you have to make a lot of sacrifice.
So
I mean, you refuse to give them credit as if they just have children like they make cheese. It's not that easy.
So there's a YouTube account, and I don't know that I've heard of him. I believe he was actually interviewed by Sam Hyde, I mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. There's a YouTuber, I don't know if he's just a YouTuber. I only know him as somebody that I've seen on YouTube. His name is, I think, Tyler Oliveira. Okay? And it's a video. I think he's had a couple of them. Okay? But there's a video of, I think it's like Lakewood, New Jersey, something like that. I think that's what the place might be called. And what he's pointing out is that the town has basically, like, on paper, statistically, it's a very poor area because so many people, like, their on paper income is so low, and they're getting lots and lots of government assistance. You go over there, and it's a bunch of Orthodox or Hasidic Jews. What they do is they have, like, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 kids. They're able to do that a lot of times while the man is studying Torah full time. But they're, and so Tyler's got the mic and he's asking, like, what do you guys do for work? How are you guys doing this? And then you come to find out they're getting some public assistance. So the government is giving these people money to study Torah and pump out half a dozen to a dozen kids. Now, if
also
you
possible.
With only one wife. They're
I know. I think it's just one. I think it's just like she's a baby factory. Like.
Yeah, if you don't have to work.
Not that that's bad. In fact, that's good. Not the baby factory, like you're just a machine, but you know what I mean. Like having children is good. Yeah, I got to cover my bases, but like, so they're doing this, and it's crazy. So when you say, like, why aren't white people having? I think there's probably a number of different factors, but one of the factors I believe is when you discriminate against white people, which the Jacob Savage article from Compact, I think it was called The Lost Generation. I still have to read it. But my understanding is he was in like maybe the entertainment film industry or something like that, and then I think he was, kind of broadening it to, white people in general. But like whites in the entertainment industry and movies and cinema and screenwriting and all that, like they were being systematically discriminated against almost 100%.
Oh.
Like you could have the superior screenplay, but if you weren't like, some person of color or some rainbow background sexual proclivity, like they wouldn't do your stuff. So you couple that with subsidizing other groups. If all it is at the end of the day is just genes competing with each other, bloodlines competing with each other, ethnicities competing with each other, then it's just a raw ethnic competition, and the people in Lakewood, New Jersey are winning because they're getting my money. I'm not in New Jersey, but they're getting American taxpayer money so that they can have kids and study their religious texts.
Right.
That's what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So, and then white people are being suppressed, and that's one of the things I remember. There was articles like, I don't know, like in mainstream publications, could have been stuff like maybe New York Times or Boston, whatever, who knows. But there were articles like, they were talking about how men were becoming less economically attractive, right?
Yeah.
Less economically attractive. So they weren't making enough money for these women to be interested in them for long-term prospects.
Oh, wow, right.
Right? And so if you get all these things where like men are less economically attractive, you're getting other groups that are being subsidized. You bring in a bunch of Haitians and they get put up in apartments or buildings that happens to be owned by the mayor in Springfield. Stuff like this. All these things together conspire. Now, if you take all those external things away, there's probably a few things where white people would still be not quite where they need to be in terms of fertility, but there's a lot that's conspiring to.
It goes against you guys.
And that's one of the things that Pastor Joel Webben pointed out in a recent stream from this week is because he was talking about the SPLC and the indictment that came down. Like, okay, here's a good thing Trump did. Good job, or Kash Patel or whoever. Is that? And I remember this from years ago. There was like a picture or something where one of the guys at SPLC had like a calendar for like the countdown for the projected when whites would become a minority in America, and it was like like a good thing, and it was just like what am I supposed to look at that as other than you have a demographic project that is aimed at me as a weapon? Like, how am I supposed to view that? Why is if I were going to, if any white person or white-oriented, organization, you can't have those, but let's pretend you could. You had some white-oriented organization, and they were counting down the dwindling demographics of any group who wasn't white. Do you think that would fly? Of course not.
Right.
Of course not. Like, ooh, the Jewish population is going down, the Hispanic population is going down, the black population, that wouldn't fly, but like, the SPLC can do that for white people.
I feel your pain.
I remember
it
when,
really sucks.
It does.
Sucks.
It sucks.
I remember when the first George Bush was in power, and there was a news item that whites would soon be a minority in the U.S., and he just said, well, that's a very good thing.
Was it George Bush or was it Biden?
George Bush, no, Biden may have said it as well, but George Bush said it. I just thought, well, that's...
W or the...
No, the original.
HW.
Oh, the HW.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That long ago, huh?
That was long ago, yeah. That was
a long while ago. Yeah.
That just shows at that time that he was the enemy. Why would you ever consider a declining demographic as being a good thing? Why would you ever do that? Like, that just shows.
Well,
the
answer's obvious, isn't it? It's because what?
Planet, and there should be fewer of them or something.
But
there are multiple. I believe there are multiple reasons. Just like many things in the world, most things in the world are multiple reasons. One of the reasons is probably because the emerging, the rising of the nation state in the contemporary history, like 200 years ago or something, and then after that is nationalism. After that is fascism. because you have one race, one state. That's what's happened, and it brought us World War I, World War II. That's why there's a counter movement to
I don't see
counter
what,
that.
I'm not following your argument here. What are you saying?
Because in nation states,
yeah,
in the, let's say, 1600s, gradually became a thing, nation state. And nation state became a thing. Nation state always won the war. They're more prosperous and more advanced.
yeah.
And so it became a thing. But following that, it led to, well, nation state and nationalism pretty much went hand in hand. Then from nationalism, you have fascism because of different circumstances. Fascism, and then you have World War I, World War II.
I'm unclear about what do you mean exactly?
Well, you get fascism's after World War I, right? But nationalism is before World War I. So nationalism is harmful to people. That's why we have the catastrophe of World War I. Then your fascism. You can argue fascism is an extension of nationalism. It goes to the extreme, became fascism. Then you have World War II. Then you have Holocaust. So what's the number one priority after World War II? To stop fascism. So prevent fascists from coming back. But it's all about race, right? One race, one country. So you want diversity to dilute the fascists, to prevent fascism to come back alive. And you have diversity. Well, in the U.S., it's reduced whites and replacement theory or partial replacement. So make sure we no longer have nation state like one race, primarily one race, one state, so we can prevent the tragedy of World War II, World War I. That's one theory, one reason. I'm sure that plays in some people's heads, but I'm pretty much sure there are other reasons as well. So you can see what group is most motivated to have this diversity, to reduce white majority. You know, some million population, a small Middle Eastern country.
So when you talk about fascism, like many people, you mean Nazism?
Fascism means the soil and the blood.
Be careful. He wrote a book called The Mystery of Fascism, so he might be trying to trap you.
I'm not intimidated by that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm just that kind of guy. I'm never intimidated.
I would never try and trap anyone.
Yeah, I trust that. I trust that. Just fascism means
it would be effortless for you. You would have to try it all.
That's fine. That's fine. Fascism to me means blood and soil makes the nation.
Blood and soil.
If you don't belong, if you're not that blood, if you're not the right blood, if you're not from that soil, you're other. So that's fascism.
Okay, I mean.
Blood means race, right? Soil means where you came from, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, blood and soil. That was a Nazi concept.
How about Mussolini?
Mussolini didn't believe in anything like that.
Oh, really?
Mussolini, fascism prior to the alliance with Hitler didn't have, well, I was going to say they didn't have racism. They certainly had racism against black Africans and people like that, right? Probably Chinese for all I know. But the thing is, it wasn't a part of fascist ideology. In fact, there was this period where Mussolini was seen for a while as the man who could stand up to Hitler. When Hitler was later than
right. Hitler.
So Mussolini came to power in 1922. Hitler came to power in 1933, and there was this period where the main hope for stopping Hitler was Mussolini, because he was a strong man who was opposed to German National Socialism, and because there was an obvious tension between Germany and Italy in the Tyrol, you know, it's an area that was, alternately claimed by Italy and Germany, and I'm trying to recollect exactly what happened, but first of all, there was this thing where there was an attempted coup by National Socialists in Austria to take over the government, and it failed. Although they killed the Austrian Chancellor Dollfuss. He was killed in this sort of uprising, or whatever you want to call it. Mussolini sent troops to deter this National Socialist coup in Austria. Right, this is long before Austria was joined to Germany. Right, and after that, Mussolini took down. There was a statue in an Italian city of some German, some Roman emperor. No, anyway, it was a German figure of some kind, and he had it taken down and replaced with a Roman general, right? And Mussolini frequently made statements scoffing at the racial theory of the Nazis and how unscientific it was and all that.
What's Mussolini's idea about fascism? Because he's the one that invented this term, right? He's the one that first used
the term fascism, and the National Socialists said they were not fascists.
Who says who's not fascist?
The National Socialists said of themselves, "We are not fascists." Yeah, okay. And one of the reasons was that National Socialism was based on race, and fascism had nothing.
What was the fascism
had
based
nothing
on?
to do with race.
What's fascism based
fascism. First of all, Mussolini was originally a Marxist and the most left wing of socialists. And so there was this period in his life where he's been compared to Che Guevara. He was the golden boy of the left, right? And he became very high up in the Socialist Party of Italy. This was before there was a Communist Party, because Communist parties were only set up at the beginning at the very earliest 1919, but most of them in most countries were not set up until 1920 or 1921. So, and they came out of the socialist parties because there was a long history of socialist parties before there were communist parties.
Okay.
And the communist parties were people who were loyal to Moscow, right? And they, in other words, they were parties who adhered to what the Third International,
right,
or the Communist International, or the Comintern. That's all the different names for the same thing. So there was this period where, and so the fascists, before there were communists, the fascists were organised, and they had a militia called the Black Shirts, right? But so what happened? What happened to there was an interesting book about Mussolini's intellectual development, because Mussolini, if you say up until about let's see, up until 1914, Mussolini was high up in the Socialist Party. He was editor of the Socialist Party journal, he'd been to prison for anti-war activities. He was an anti-militarist, and very much a hero of the left, much like Che Guevara became later. So people all over Europe, sort of extreme leftists, had pictures of Mussolini, and because he was a leftist, and he was an effective public speaker and quite intellectual. You know, he read everything, so what happened was there was a general movement within the left notably headed by, what was the guy's name? I'm blanking on the name, which happens with
That thing called age.
I was going to say with cognitive decline, often
So, okay,
associated
I've probably never heard of that
often
name
associated with aging.
Okay.
By the way, I was looking into the things that are conducive to cognitive decline, because you know I'm 2 years older than Trump, and so I read that the vitamin B, there is evidence that it postpones cognitive decline. So I took a couple of vitamin Bs today.
Isn't vitamin B, like, there's a whole bunch of them? Like,
Yeah,
vitamin
so you
B
get
this,
B
B
complex,
that.
which is all of them,
Oh,
from
okay.
B2 to B12, right?
Okay.
Don't know if there's a B1, I've never heard of it if there is. Maybe there must be.
Bomber.
If there's a B2, there must be a B1, right? Yeah, there's a bomber, that's right. B1 is the bomber, but B2 is the vitamin, and B12 is the... Anyway, I was just reminded of that just now, because one of the things I have read about the B complex vitamins is they turn your urine a bright yellow. No, it's not just ordinary yellow that all urine is. It's very bright, like, and I just noticed that that's true, because I had a couple of. I had a couple of. So
That's
anyway,
awesome.
this is what happens to people with cognitive decline. They start rambling incoherently into all kinds of areas. So anyway, who was the name of that person? He started as a man of the left, but he became, he was French, and he started eventually, Sorel, his name was, and he wrote a book called Reflections on Violence, and of course he thought that violence was a great thing, and he put forward the theory that the theory of surplus value and all these Marxist theories, right, they were not true, but they were great myths, and that they should be cherished. And so the theory of the class struggle should be cherished because it was a great myth for indomitable, manly groups to fight against whatever, people you don't like, I suppose. Anyway, so Sorel, yeah, so you see, the situation in left-wing circles was there was beginning to be a kind of disappointment with the Social Democrats, who were Marxists, who'd taken over in Germany briefly, and then later not so briefly. But the thing is that there was a feeling, this parliamentary socialism, bringing in socialism by electing people and getting them to nationalise industry, is really... There's no glamour in that, and also it's not effective, and they sell out and all that. So Sorel, so there was this. So the idea was to be really as left as you could possibly be was to be a syndicalist, right? Syndicalist. It comes from the French word syndicat, which means a labour union, essentially. So it was the idea, originally syndicalism was the idea that the labour union should take over industry and run it directly without going through parliament, right? They should seize the factories and run them. And then as it evolved, the labour unions were considered bureaucratic sellouts. So it had to be a more pristine workers' movement than the labour unions, right? So while this was going on, it was going on in Italy, and all European countries, but especially Southern Europe, and it was going on in Italy, and Mussolini was high up in the Italian Socialist Party, but he was also very interested in this new wave of syndicalism, which was becoming more and more violent and more opposed to democratic and bureaucratic methods, and more in favour of direct action, right? So
direct action sounds like a euphemism.
Direct action, it was originally an anarchist thing. So there was this, there was anarchist syndicalists, and there were syndicalists that didn't call themselves anarchists. It was a complicated mix. But so intellectually, Mussolini was very interested in this and very involved with it, even though he didn't leave the Socialist Party for a long time. So he, didn't go off and join the syndicalists. But then what happened was that there was a Sorel and people like this. There was a turn to being in favour of war, right? This was a new development. It was the latest thing in left-wing politics. Instead of opposing war and fighting as Mussolini had done, you would support war because war would do all kinds of good things. And it went along with productivism, which was that you should ally yourselves with that section of the bourgeoisie which was in favour of increasing production. So instead of just being a saboteur or an obstructor to the bourgeoisie, you should unite with the progressive bourgeoisie in order to get production up. And this was particularly appealing to a backward, almost third world country like Italy was seen as this time. It was way lower in its economic output and so on than places like Britain and France and Germany, right? So what happened then was that in 1914, this great figure, this hero of socialism, as left as you could possibly be without being an actual syndicalist, came out in support of the war. This was after war broke out in August 1914, but it was a bit later that Mussolini came out in support of the war, and a lot of socialists supported him from within the Socialist Party, and they broke from the Socialist Party. So, and they're called but then they successfully got Italy to join the war, because Italy didn't join the war in alliance with Germany at first. No, they weren't. No, sorry, they weren't in alliance with Germany. They were in alliance with Britain and France against Germany in the First World War. And Mussolini then had his own magazine, which was a socialist magazine, but pro-war and pro the Allies fighting Germany. And it was all based on socialist ideas, but it was also based on these syndicalist ideas. And then when the war was over, during the war, Mussolini went to the front and was wounded, right? And so became a kind of war hero, although he was wounded when the tank he was working on blew up. And so it wasn't in action against the enemy, so it's a little bit less than glamorous. But anyway, he was a wounded war hero. And then after the war, in 1919, he founded the fascist movement. And there were 7 founder members of the fascist movement. And I think 5 of them were people who up to that time had been Marxists. They were Marxists. And then the other 2 were nationalists. There was a nationalist movement, and basically Mussolini made the decision to ally with this nationalist movement. And then they set up this militia, the Black Shirts. And what happened then was, well, first of all, so in accordance with this ideology of productivism and supporting the building up of the nation, and supporting what we would now call economic growth, although I don't think they used that term back then, for Italy. So Italy is a backward country that needs to industrialize, and to do that, it needs to, for the militants, the fascists. Oh yes, so fascio was a term in common use, just meaning a league or association or union, right? And so they just took that, and then they linked it to the ancient Roman fasces. It used to be a symbol of the power of Rome, that they would have a bundle of sticks inside which was an axe, and you could break the bundle of sticks and you have this axe. So anyway, symbolic of something. Anyway, so the black shirts of the fascists started breaking up strikes, and there were a lot of strikes because this was just at the period of the formation of the Communist Party. So there were left-wing socialists and there were communists, and they'd formerly been united, but the communists were now trying to show they were more militant than the Socialist Party and so on. So all this was going on, and they were making trouble. Which, basically, once it became clear that Marxism wasn't going to be consummated in some big revolution caused by one big firm, which was the Marxist prediction, ever since then there has been this thread of ideas in Marxism. If you keep on making trouble, something will turn up for the revolution. So because you're creating dissent and disorder within capitalism. So you're challenging capitalism, even if the struggle you're engaged in has no obvious connection with socialism. You're really bringing socialism about. Well, the fascists rejected that, and they rejected this mindless obstruction. It's one thing to go on strike for higher wages. It's a different thing to go on strike because you want to break up the capitalist system. And the fascists said this isn't going to lead anywhere. We've got to support the progressive bourgeoisie and increase production. So the black shirts started breaking up strikes. There were lots and lots of strikes, and the strikes were accompanied by violent demonstrations by the left. And the black shirts went in and beat up these violent demonstrators and strikers. And generally speaking, the conservative-minded population of Italy was grateful to the fascists.
Yeah.
Because they were the people who were stopping all this disorder and violence, but they were stopping it by using violence against the violent people, right? So none of this had anything to do with race, you see. And then later there was this period. So to cut a long story short, the fascists organised a march on Rome. And it was a symbolic thing. They didn't actually fight anybody to take control of Rome, but they had this big march, and it moved, I think, from Milan to Rome, and there was an atmosphere of crisis, and the fascists seemed to be offering security and an end to disorder was the main thing they were offering, because although they were operating outside the law, they were fighting the people who were causing all the trouble, the left, and so then as they got closer to Rome, there was a general mood of crisis in the country, and the King of Italy begged Mussolini to become Prime Minister. And after a bit of hesitation and demanding a few safeguards and so on, Mussolini gave in to the king's begging, and agreed to become Prime Minister of Italy. And so that was in 1922, and became Prime Minister of Italy. At first, it wasn't a dictatorship, and it was also. There was an element in this fascist movement of being against nationalisation and against government over-regulation. So there was a free market strand in their thinking. And so when they first came to power, when Mussolini first became Prime Minister, they actually deregulated and introduced more market freedom in certain areas. Later, that was to be forgotten, but that was in the early stages. So that's what fascism was. So, and it had nothing to do with race. I mean, the fascists were just like other Europeans. Is they had contempt for certain non-European races, right, in a very general way, and particularly black Africans, who they regarded as lower than anything. And so, one of the things that Mussolini thought was necessary was to have an empire and so they occupied Abyssinia, which is another name for Ethiopia. It's the same place, just two different names. So they took over Ethiopia, and they showed huge brutality towards the black inhabitants of Ethiopia. But nobody thought that was because they were uniquely racist. They were just like other Europeans. They had a contempt for blacks, right? So that was the background to the rise of fascism.
But nowadays the word fascism is like generalized.
What happened was, well, when fascism appeared, the left immediately developed a theory of fascism. This is before Hitler he'd been heard of, but before he came to power, right? So the left developed this theory of fascism, and later they extended this theory to include the Nazis, who they always called fascists, which is a misunderstanding because the Nazis were not fascists, although there were some similarities, right? But the Nazis were all about race, whereas the fascists were not about race at all.
Original fascism is not about race.
Right.
And now it's broadened.
The old school good kind is what you're saying, right?
And now even Japanese, the World War II Japanese, they're fascism too.
But you see, this again is the left applying.
Right. It's extended it.
Movie?
What?
What about in Ayn Rand's movie?
There is the movie Noi Vivi, We the Living.
Yeah.
An Italian movie based on Ayn Rand's novel, We the Living. But in fascist Italy, in the 20s, some Italian director made a movie based on, or closely following, Ayn Rand's first novel, which is called We the Living. It's in Italian, it's Noi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the Italian correctly, but Noi, something like Noi Vivi, it's actually quite a good movie, and it follows the novel quite closely, so all kinds of legends developed among objectivists about that movie, but it did have a female actress who went to Hollywood and became quite famous. I forget what her name was now. But anyway, that's what Mike Flores was babbling on about, that meeting we had where I talked about Ayn Rand, and he got hold of it. Because what happened was the objectivists instinctively shied away from the fact that people in fascist Italy would make a movie of Ayn Rand's novel, right? Because it's part of the objectivist outlook that fascism and communism are pretty much the same. But in fact, so the objectivists developed the legend that this movie was banned and all that kind of stuff. It's absolute nonsense. As I tried to point out to Mike Flores, there's nothing in that movie and it would offend any fascist, right? So it wasn't a movie that upset the fascists at all. There's no evidence that any fascist was ever upset by that movie or tried to ban it or anything. It was just a good movie that was made by an Italian filmmaker. I don't even know whether he was a fascist or not. There are all kinds of little incidents, if you read about the history of fascism, that are quite. There was a very young orchestra conductor in Italy who had some association with the fascist movement. When the fascist movement first started contesting elections, nobody knew what they were, and some people thought they were.
Fascists contested? That's why everybody wanted to call Trump a fascist, because he contested elections too. I'm sorry, I just got distracted when you said that the fascists contested elections.
I just mean they put up candidates in elections. I don't mean they objected to the outcome of elections.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Right.
I'm sorry.
That's what we say in Britain. To contest an election just means
to be in the contest.
To run, or as we say, stand in an election.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
But the thing is, there was a young orchestra conductor very young, precocious orchestra conductor, who found himself in the fascist movement, thinking it was a left liberal kind of thing. And there was an incident where they wanted him to make the orchestra keep playing Giovinezza, which is the fascist song, right? And after a couple of goes through, he refused. And he said, no, I'm not going to take part in this bloody nonsense. And his name was Arturo Toscanini.
Oh.
And he went to America and became, by all accounts, by far the best conductor in the world, symphony conductor in the world. So anyway, that's a few little odds and ends about fascism.
As a side question, what makes a conductor a good conductor?
If you listen to Toscanini's performances and compare them with earlier recordings, you have the answer to that. They're amazingly somehow they're clear, and interpretation is very clear and compelling, and not muddy.
And besides, isn't he the one that was in the things with Mickey Mouse? Wasn't that Toscanini?
I missed that bit. What was that?
You haven't seen that?
No,
you haven't seen the
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, you haven't seen that?
Where
You're not
Mickey
talking
Mouse
about
is
Fantasia?
being the conductor?
No.
There was a Walt Disney movie called Fantasia, which was based on a succession of
Oh, it might
classical
have been in
pieces.
Fantasia. Might
Yeah.
have been in Fantasia.
Yeah. I don't know, Igor Stravinsky said something. He said they've scored it all wrong, and we went on a big tirade about Fantasia and the way they treated the Rite of Spring.
He just said there's some grave misconceptions there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But no, there's a you know, like a real life Toscanini with the Mickey Mouse and they're shaking hands and stuff.
So the point is, the left developed this theory of fascism, and the left theory of fascism, which you still find today, although it's obviously wrong, was that the fascism is a sign of the very last days of capitalism, the death rattle of capitalism. And what it shows is a section of the capitalists developing a movement. They're trying to save capitalism by reducing workers' wages. And in order to do that, they had to have this irrational movement that had no ideology to it. In other words, they're immediately saying something about fascism that was false. The fascist ideology was a lot more sophisticated than the ideology of the Communist International. You know, Mussolini was a much deeper thinker than Lenin, anyway, and more successful with women too. You know, there was a woman called Angelika Balabanov, and I always think she'd make a terrific movie because she slept with both Lenin and Mussolini on different occasions, of course, and in different places as well. But you imagine Hollywood dominated by bloody communists being able to make a movie that would have any kind of objectivity about it, about Angelika Balabanov. Couldn't be done in Hollywood. It could be done maybe somewhere else. Yeah. So there's all kinds of myths about fascism that arise from this. The left developed the theory about fascism. What is this? It's a working class movement, or it's got a lot of working class members. It collaborates with the bourgeoisie and so on. Well, the explanation is this is the last gasp of capitalism before it's finally overthrown by a socialist revolution, the last desperate throw, and that's why people who think like this, they think that The Iron Heel by Jack London is a prophecy of fascism, because what happens in Jack London, apart from all the other things he was revolutionary socialist, extreme left socialist. Also, he was an extreme racist as well. And they didn't think that non-white races could actually. So anyway, could ever achieve the level of Marxist socialism. He was a Marxist, called himself a Marxist. But anyway, that's London. But it shows the way this ideology was spread and was understood, because that prophecy, the Iron Heel, was written much earlier. That became people said, "Oh yeah,
what?
Jack London, he forecast fascism."
The iron
The Iron Heel.
heel?
Heel, yeah, heel. This part of the anatomy.
Right.
I read The Iron Heel, and I must say, Jack London is a great writer of adventure stories, and of other kinds of stories as well. He was a good storyteller. The Iron Heel
Is he the one that did Call of the Wild?
Call of the Wild, yeah, that's one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I read an abridged version of that as a kid.
Yeah, that's a good one. But he wrote it quite a lot. Yeah. So The Iron Heel, I read that when I was very young. I remember 2 lines from it. The Iron Heel is the name they give to this. It's monopoly capitalist class that has taken over and imposed a kind of dictatorship to put off the socialist revolution. So there's all this mythology about the need that capitalists feel to put off the socialist revolution, when there was never any chance that the socialist revolution would come about. But anyway, so the 2 lines I remember are these. This is also hilarious. The hero of The Iron Heel is a man called Everhard. Freudians of the world, take notice. So Everhard is this implacable Marxist revolutionary foe of the Iron Heel, right? The Iron Heel is this ruling group, this ruling elite. And there's one place where it says, Everhard was a thorn in the side of the Iron Heel. So I think that's hilarious. And the other one was where Everhard says, the Iron Heel has snapped its fingers at us. I think they're 2 of the funniest lines in literature. But anyway, inadvertently, of course, Jack London was dead serious. But anyway, so the left had so their theory of fascism was that fascism was the last desperate gasp of capitalism, and in fact was to be welcomed because it was a sign. Although the fascists had to be fought, and we had to go out into the streets and attack them, right? And anybody we decided was a fascist, we had to go out into the streets and attack them, which is where you end up with people like, Antifa, because they judge anybody who doesn't think exactly like they do as a fascist. But anyway, so this is this mythology of the left, and they applied it. Having started with fascism, they used the word fascism every time. So they applied it to Hitler's Germany, which was not fascist. They applied it to the Spanish nationalists who took over during the Spanish Civil War and after, and they were not fascists, although they were an alliance of different right-wing groups, one of which was a fascist group. But which was subsumed eventually in this Francoist party, which was not really fascist in its ideology at all. So that's all kinds of stuff about. And then of course people got into the habit of using the word fascism for any kind of brutal, evil regime they didn't like, and so you get it applied to
right wing.
You get it
to be right wing.
Anything that can be cast as right wing and also extreme. Is called fascist. And violent is called fascist. And that's why it was applied to Japan, which is a totally different culture, which didn't have an outlook on the world which was at all like fascism or Nazism, although Japan was allied with Nazi Germany and fascist Italy in what was called the Axis. that their ideologies were very, very distinct. You know, the Japanese had an emperor who they worshipped as divine, for one thing. So, and also the Japanese had free elections all through the war, up to and through the war. So they were not like fascists and Nazis in wanting to have a one-party state. Yeah.
I got the conductor wrong. It wasn't Toscanini, it was Stokowski.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
That was in Fantasia.
Oh, was it? Did Stokowski did?
Yeah, he
Fantasia.
actually conducted the Sorcerer's Apprentice, while Mickey did his craziness and Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then afterwards, he walked up to him and they shook hands.
Oh, okay.
So, in other words, there isn't intrinsically a racial component.
The Italian fascists before, now when they allied with Hitler, they in, I guess, what would that be, 1938, so that they were together at the outbreak of the Second World War. They were in alliance. They started introducing anti-Jewish measures in Italy. There is argument about exactly why they did that. Obviously, they did it because of the alliance with Germany, which had these anti-Jewish measures, and they had to decide when the Germans said, "Round up all your Jews and send them to us," and things like that. They had to decide what to do about it, and Mussolini decided. Now the fascists had a grand council. Actually that's the translation from Italian. It's a bad translation. It's Great Council, right? They had this Great Council, which was ruled over Mussolini. They had the final word. There was a similar thing in Nazi Germany. There was a council which, in theory, could overrule Hitler. Although Hitler, once the war got going, said, "You've got to trust me." Right, so there were various members of this Grand Council who were very much opposed to the anti-Semitism that had been introduced into Italy. So and by the way, prior to that, Jews had a disproportionately high representation in the upper ranks of the fascist movement in Italy. And there is, in fact, a famous autobiography by one of the Jews who was in the very high ranks of the fascist movement. I forget his name, but the name of his book is History of a Lucky Jew, and it describes how he was so high up, and then when they started turning against Jews in Italy, and it was a big shock to a lot of people, because it was so unlike. So Mussolini was very pro-Jewish before this. I mean, most of his mistresses were Jewish, just to say, so you could say he had good taste, or you could say he had poor taste. It's a matter of chacun a son goût, as the French say. But anyway, there was nothing anti-Semitic about fascism before 1938.
Yeah, so one of the things that I mentioned, to bring it back to like demographics for just a second, one of the things I mentioned, I think twice, once a couple years ago and once more recently in the email discussion, is a piece by Brian Kaplan.
Oh yeah.
Who I've started calling Brian Kraplin, because I don't like him. So no, Brian Kaplan, and the piece is called "They Scare Me," and it was written on.
It's called what?
They Scare Me.
Okay.
posted on in October of 2015, and he talks about, Mormons, and the Mormons he's met are really nice. Occasionally though, so I'm going to read like a couple paragraphs, so bear with me, right?
Yeah.
It says, occasionally though, I wonder what would happen if Mormons were a solid majority of the U.S. population. Maybe they'd be as wonderful as ever, but I readily picture a sinister metamorphosis. Given enough power, even Mormons might embrace a brutal fundamentalism. Despite my lovely experiences with Mormons, they scare me. To be fair, they're hardly alone. You know who else scares me? Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus, and atheists. Sunnis, Shiites, Catholics, and Protestants. Whites, blacks, Asians, Hispanics, and American Indians. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, Marxists, and reactionaries. Even libertarians scare me a bit. Why? Because given enough power, there's a serious chance they'll do terrible things. Different terrible things, no doubt, but terrible nonetheless. If you're afraid of every group, though, shouldn't you support whatever group has a minimum chance of doing terrible things once it's firmly in charge? Not at all. There's another path. Try to prevent any group from being firmly in charge. In the long run, the best way to do this is to make every group a small minority. To split society into such small pieces that everyone abandons hope of running society and refocuses their energy on building beautiful bubbles. That's linked. I'm not sure what that's a reference to. And it says, as Voltaire once put it, if one religion were only allowed in England, the government would very possibly become arbitrary. If there were but two, the people would cut one another's throats. But as there are such a multitude, they all live happy and in peace. So Brian Kaplan is a demographic engineer who wants a whole bunch of small groups.
Right.
So that no one group gets too big and powerful.
Jewish name, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, the thing is,
I didn't say anything about that. For the record, I love everyone, and I have no hatred in my heart whatsoever.
You often hear the phrase self-hating Jew. I've never met a self-hating Jew. I've known a lot of Jews. I have met self-hating Anglo-Saxons or self-hating Nordics. I have. And in fact, they are responsible for things like this remark, it's a good thing if whites are in the minority in the US. That's the kind of thing you get from self-hating Nordics. But anyway, I have met self-pitying Jews.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, I love everybody. I don't have any hatred in my heart. But this piece, to borrow a phrase, he scares me. Brian Kaplan scares me.
Yeah, he scares me, but in a different way from what he intended to be scared by these other groups.
Yeah, so it's like, he says a lot of good stuff otherwise. He's libertarian, right?
Yeah, he's good on some.
Yeah.
I've read some stuff by him that's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the whole idea that, I mean, I can see there is a certain sense in it.
I can see that
you
too,
don't
yeah.
want a unitary, an ideology that has the potential to be extreme, to be in unchallenged control of the government, because who knows what they might end up doing, right? Yeah, there's a certain element of that I agree with, yeah.
But the path to get there, it's like, I don't
That's
know.
right.
Like, is it really I was about to ask, is it really a libertarian project to do that? But, like, if that's what he believes would happen.
Yeah, he believes that. No, I mean...
it could be.
I mean, let him say it, it's fine. It's not gonna...
I don't like it, though.
I don't like it, no.
Yeah.
Because everybody in the whole country should fully accept the truths embodied in Steelism. Until that happens, I won't rest.
You need cohesion. If you're like fragmented like that, how can you have cohesion?
Good point. Yeah,
You've
got to have cohesion.
That's the Chinese way.
Right. Well, that's
You have
that's fully
92%.
compatible with Steelism. I give it my blessing.
Great. You can get a Chinese passport.
Oh, thank you. That's great. I think I need one in the coming crash. I think it would be better off in China than in the US. Although it would be a lot better off in the US than in Europe. 2 or 3 months from now, you'll be glad you're in the US and not in Europe, because
Oh, yeah.
Europe's going to take it really. It's going to be a really sickening blow to Europe. What's coming? We're facing the biggest economic contraction since the 1930s, worldwide.
Okay.
The gas prices are just the beginning.
But they've got a long way to go up.
You think?
Isn't U.S. will be the last? I mean, if ever gets to the U.S.,
Well,
U.S. will be most insulated.
You know, even just
right?
even just the great contraction in places like South Korea, that in itself would cause a recession in the US.
Yeah.
You know, 6 months later. I mean, that would happen just automatically, just from that alone, right? If you contract world trade and world output, the US isn't going to emerge unscathed. But when on top of that you've got this whole cutting off of oil supplies.
Yeah.
And you know who we have to thank for this crisis in many ways is the left, because they have, in this case, it's not really the Marxist left, it's more like the trendy, cozy, cuddly left. They have put a stop to the production of nuclear power stations in the West. China, they're building right now, nearly 50. They're under construction right now, and they've already got a lot of nuclear power stations. And they are the alternative, the only alternative to petroleum, to fossil fuels. And they're a good alternative. They're clean. They're non-dangerous. They don't create all the accidents that you get in chemical plants and stuff like that. If we had a hugely greater number of nuclear power stations in Western countries, we would be, this would be a minor thing, this Strait of Hormuz bottleneck. Because, what we should have now is 80% of energy in the world should be from nuclear. And I think the case for that is overwhelming. But the people who put a stop to that, they've been closing down nuclear power stations in Germany. Closing them down because of the Greens, right? Because of hostility to nuclear from the Greens. And this is, there is beginning to be, you're beginning to see signs that there's going to be a huge expansion of nuclear power in the West.
Yeah.
But it takes, let's say, 10 years to build a nuclear power station. Let's say it could be 5 years if you really practiced at it and you've done a lot of it recently. But you say 10 years. But then it takes another 10 years because of the bureaucratic regulations you have to fight your way through in the US and other Western countries. So, we're not going to see any huge, and they're not, most of them, there's been talk, but they haven't started laying the foundations, so to speak. They haven't started building these plants. You know what state in the US has the biggest nuclear contribution to energy? Illinois.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was surprised to read that. But there's no, there's just there's this hostility that's been built up by the left and by the green movement. So that's got to be overcome. We've got to start building nuclear power plants, and then we wouldn't be troubled so much. We'd be a very much more minor thing if we had a bottleneck at the Strait of Hormuz.
Who has is the uranium or uranium mines? Would there ever be a bottleneck in the whole supply chain for nuclear energy?
There's too many places that can produce uranium.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
They have to produce. They have to what's it called, refine or
enrich it. Yeah.
That's only a few countries have the capacity, right? You have to send it to Russia to get it back, or send it to U.S. to get it back, something like that.
Yeah, right. But I mean,
could be a bottleneck, right?
From what I understand, I don't know anything personally about this technology, but from what I understand, that's not difficult. That basically any country that has a reasonable number of universities with physics departments can do this sort of thing. But you know, this is this, you know, it's ironic that Marxism had this idea of developing the forces of production, and Marxism as a movement has developed into a force to oppose developing the forces of production. You know, they're obstructing development of the forces of production. So they obstructed. I mean, it wasn't primarily Marxists who were in the spearheading the anti-nuclear movement, but it was the left. You know, and more in its green manifestation than its Marxist manifestation. But still, it's the left. They have